All right. Hello, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon, and welcome in to sadly the final episode ever of Press Row here on the Playback TV platform. It is episode 26 of Press Row. As always, we enjoy being your front row seat to the intersection of sports, business, media, and culture right here on And to the Bench, right here on Playback one last time. That is Nick Morgeson, our fearless leader in Plainview, New York, Callum McClurg here in San Diego, California. And right around 11 a.m. local time here, as always, another action-packed lineup of topics, takes, and deep dives ahead. Make sure you follow us on social media. We are at ETB Network on Twitter, IG, and TikTok. And make sure you smash the subscribe button over at youtube.com/ETB Network as we still chase down the 4,000 watch hour goal. Of course, Nick, before we get to today's show, though, again, we talked about this on Saturday. Now, of course, we have to talk about this here today. You and Tom talked about this on Tuesday. But, of course, two major whammies in your neck of the woods and game shows. But we got one whammy, then now the double whammy hit over the course of the past couple days, as we said. As you said, I think very well, though, at the top of the NBA stream on Tuesday. It's been a long week for us here at both ETB and also for our friends on Playback. But, of course, Nick, we're dealing again with the exit of Novig as the official sports prediction market sponsor amid ongoing crackdowns legislatively on dual currency platforms, on sports betting in general. Then, of course, Nick, the shocking news, though, that Playback TV is ceasing operations tomorrow on Friday at effectively 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, which, again, has forced us to pivot our live stream content, minus the watch parties now, to both YouTube, Kick, and Twitch, but also Twitter. So, of course, Nick, with the departure we've had, though, here of both Novig and now, of course, losing Playback, a very chaotic week. But more importantly, I think, Nick, from our perspective, though, of the host of this sports media and sports business podcast, what does a chaotic week like this, though, reveal about the fundamental financial instability, but also regulatory risk, though, that you inherit in sports betting, but also a interactive streaming sector of sports media, much like Playback has been? Again, they've been a great loyal soldier for as long as I have been here for the last 8 months.
All right. So, as you said, it's been a long 72 to 96 hours of fixing this situation with content, and between now I'm more frustrated with one out of the two because of the way they've been acting in this process. To be honest, and usually I'm not this type of person, but Nova can go screw, to be quite honest, because number one, they gave you more warning in California than they did to us in New York whatsoever. Right. We literally had a day, not even a day.
We had maybe 12 to 16 hours to figure this out.
So they can go screw. And then on top of that, when we were letting everybody know that we can't use it anymore because it's not legal in New York, and that's where a lot of us are, one of their idiots at their workplace decided to drop a yawning emoji right under our
Brent Hoffman Jr., you know who you are, damn it.
Yeah, so you can go screw too, because you obviously don't know how to work professionally in a business. Like, you and I have grown up in this business to understand you just don't do things like that whatsoever. And by the way, when we're off this platform, if he wants to come on and we want to discuss, debate professionalism, we can do that, because you and I have talked about that in many different stories of how the media can be a good place and it can be a really bad place sometimes too, depending on who you run into in this business. But I'm not sad to see them go, because now they've basically made it illegal to do any prediction market betting. Oh, I got to be careful because Novik doesn't like the word betting.
They're not here anymore. They're not relevant, so it's fine.
I'm joking. But that was always an annoying thing for me, by the way, too, that I couldn't say bet.
Right.
Because, but that's how we circumvent not getting a license for all the
circumvent aspiration.
Yeah. So, by the way, in case you don't know how sports prediction markets work, and I talked about this on the whatever we called that Saturday show, and I said it on, what was it, Tuesday with Tom, that the way that these sports prediction markets get around not getting licenses and say, oh, well, we're allowed in all 50 states, and we're allowed in California, and we're allowed in New York, and we're allowed in Illinois, like where Zan and Grant and Michael are. is because we don't have a license. We don't operate in like a DraftKings or a FanDuel does, where you actually have to have licenses to exist. So they make you buy virtual currency, which was Novid coins. Well, the Novid Cash was the real currency. Novid coins was more, what would you call it? Like a practice session,
Yeah.
so to speak. But the joke is on them because they're not allowed in California or New York anymore. So, in my opinion, they're not going to survive because if and by the way, they're not legal in Nevada either. Most prediction markets are not
Yeah, they're not.
legal. I think because that has to do with gambling already being there. They don't want to compete. I think I don't know that for a fact, but they can go screw. I don't care. This platform, I was kind of sad to see go because we've done a lot of things. Now, could we have eventually taken all the shows over to YouTube and Kick and Twitch and Twitter and just left the watch parties on here? I think that probably would have been an eventual option, just to keep the watch parties on here because we can take everything in house and make it more efficient that
Right.
way, and we can put backgrounds in, which we're going to do. We're now going to have Twitter as an option as a simulcast because even though Playback had it, I would have had to do it as an RTMP key, and it would have been harder. And then I would have had to keep the window up for every show that we're being simulcast to. It would have been a nightmare.
Yeah.
So what's happening now is everything's staying the same. Twitter, Twitch, Kick, YouTube, everything's staying the same. The only drivers that we're not going to have is Playback.
Yeah.
So now, could it come back in the future? They say it's going to get bought or they're trying to sell the technology. I'll believe that when I see it. Even though we saw a weird tweet go out. What was the guy's name? Jack Settleman, I think was the guy's name.
Settleman from, I think, Snapback Sports, I want to say.
Said he was interested in possibly buying the platform. Or now another one I think could possibly be in the game is Amazon because they own Twitch. But would that only allow Amazon programming? Because are they going to allow other programming, other game stuff?
Other opportunities, yeah.
Or could they just be an investment and then maybe they don't care what's on there?
They just give the financial infusion.
So, and trust me, Amazon has more money than you and I have probably will ever see in our lifetime,
Absolutely.
to be quite honest. So our shows are not going anywhere. All the shows you saw on here are just going to not have playback. That's it. We were kind of prepared for this, if you think about it, in a sense, because we were already doing everything else on all the other platforms. We're going to be using StreamYard, which is what we do to record all our recorded shows. But I think it's going to look better. It's going to have a logo in the background now. We can play sound effects within our streams, which, if you notice, I have to keep going into a folder like this, and I have to play things like this. I have to play it out of a folder because they never figured out how to migrate the sound effects over, which
Correct.
would have been nice. And I have to put headphones on from time to time because I'm in my office is right above my parents' den and all that stuff, so they don't want to hear everything that's going on in this room, at least from the natural source. So
yes.
that
me both.
so now we'll be able to do that within StreamYard. Now, excuse me, people are going to say, well, why are you talking about StreamYard? Well, I'll tell you why. So, in my conversations with the playback people, when I first got to know who they were, this is going back even before you were here. And
naturally,
they said, we want to compete and take down StreamYard, essentially. Okay. Well, guess where we are now?
We're going back to StreamYard, baby.
Well, we're on StreamYard. We're just doing more stuff on there now. So I'm not happy about it. Nothing. I can't blame them fully, but I feel like they could have done better from a standpoint of getting the rights. Now, I could read the Discord message, the long Discord message that Brandon put out. And by the way, this has nothing to do with Brandon Towers, who's one of the guys that has worked really hard with us to do a lot of things on here. But basically, what they say is they're shutting the platform down on Friday, which Callan had mentioned at the top. To summarize, they could not get more funding. As a result, they're in the process of moving playback statement technology into a bigger media company. Our hope is to be able to rebuild the magic of playback's watch party experience with the benefit of more rights and resources in the near future. But in the meantime, we have no choice but to sunset the current playback platform as it is, which hit a lot of us hard. I was recording my show with Zan Vando, ETB Sports, when this message came over Discord, and I didn't know what to really say, to be quite honest. But it looks like a lot of the playback employees are leaving for other opportunities. Yeah, this is tough, and I hope it comes back in another iteration. But if it comes back in another iteration, we're going to leave all the shows on our YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Kick, and hopefully they add TikTok and Instagram with a automatic migration. Because once we move the shows, I don't want to move them back over to playback again if they come back. So we'll leave it as it is, and we'll figure it out. But it's frustrating because we liked watching NBA games. We liked watching WNBA games. We liked watching the World Series. We liked watching the NBA Finals or the WNBA Finals. We watched tennis on here. We watched the US Open on here. Like, we watched Red Zone. So I don't know. Well, it's a tough time.
It is.
But you know what? I think we're going to be better off, as I told Callan, because Callan originally was scared when the playback platform went away. But there was some limitations in here, too.
There were, yeah, and we won't go too much further. We what we will say, though, we have a very special program today. We'll hopefully have maybe one more tomorrow before the deadline hits at 6 p.m. Eastern, depending on scheduling. Again, I got to be at work tomorrow, so maybe we'll see what happens. But what we can say before we get to our actual show here, we don't want to go too much longer on these topics, is Tom Albano is going to be hosting the first only episode of Riding the Bench live tonight here on playback before we eventually move it to StreamYard, and we have to work out some logistical factors with that. But that's like our caveat, or like our gift to our playback community, I'd say, is we get one last two raw, basically, with, I thought, Nick, what was probably going to be the best invention that they've come up with in the 8 months I've been here. But of course, not going to see.
You know what? And the last thing I'll say too, when they got Tony Reale to host an Around the Room show, I said, this is a home run. They need to bring him on once a week and let him. And you're telling me that they couldn't get sponsors around that to have a one-time, once a week, half an hour show? Go grab a big sponsor. Hey, I got former ESPN host of 23 years, Tony Reale, doing a Around the Room, which is really Around the Horn from ESPN on playback platform. Sponsor, please. Anybody. You know how much money that probably would have brought in?
I know, right?
Now, I'm not, let me be careful with, you never want to reach into the pockets of somebody, ever. Yeah. But you have to admit that probably would have brought in a lot of money if they figured out a way.
Absolutely, it would have.
So, I don't know. I think they dropped the ball slightly. Now, I'll caveat with this. This is a great platform. I don't want to see it die. None of us wanted to see it die. Does. But I feel like they could have done some things better. I feel like, don't get me wrong, the tools integration is nice, but there's not enough rights on here for games at all.
Just what we've already mentioned.
NFL Red Zone was probably the best, finally, that they got NFL on this platform. Was a lot of the reason why people had come over here. NBA is great. Don't get me wrong. WNBA was great. Were we going to have a season next year? That's a whole different story.
Nah.
MLB, great. We were able to watch the games. We watched the playoffs. We did all that. But they needed Monday Night Football. They needed Thursday Night Football. They needed, I'm trying to think what else we were clamming them for, like, to get.
Major League Soccer, the National Hockey League, the Olympics for next year, the World Baseball Classic.
Like, and I get it because they write in their long Discord message that some of the rights stuff is not easy because it's a license situation. It probably would have cost them a lot of money. But sometimes, what is that dumb saying? You have to spend money to make it?
Yep.
Like, but I don't want to talk about this much further. But basically, what I'll say is, well, we're going to pivot, and we've done it before, so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, and again, folks, we'll as we said though, but again, Tom Albano will be hosting a kind of a opening tease, I guess, for Riding the Bench, which is our version of Around the Horn that was going to be on here when the new year launched, but obviously, of course, with the sunsetting, the ceasing of operations by playback come Friday. Again, there might be some very small, like farewell program tonight, probably tomorrow. We'll see if we're able to pull it off, but I think probably tonight's going to probably be our last day of operation on here.
Yeah, because I have to record forecast at 6 p.m. Eastern when it closes. But all right, let's get into show. Speaking of pivoting,
I mean, this story, by the way, Nick, threw the whole rundown into the air. And by the way, this is like the longest that you'll probably hear me, Mr. Anti-American Football, talk about this sport for the whole first hour of our show, practically.
Well, before we get to the story, actually, there was one more thing I wanted to mention too. So I forgot about this because I asked you about this last night. Can we talk briefly for about 2 to 3 minutes since this platform is closing and we've done every single episode on here? How the show got here.
I was going to save this for the story time. So
Unless you want to do it.
I mean, we'll save it for the story time because we've not done story time like in many shows. I think this would be the perfect time to do it though. So that's a tease. So stick around with this and stick around with this for the end of the show.
Yeah, you're right. We got to do the show topics, but I say burn that in the brain for around 5 p.m. Eastern. But let's get to the first story. As I said, pivot. So Sherrone Moore has been fired at Michigan. Now, I'm saying this for legality, for cause. The University of Michigan announced the stunning firing of head football coach Sherrone Moore on Wednesday evening, effective immediately, and for cause. The university's investigation found credible evidence that Moore engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member, which violated university policy and allowed Michigan to terminate his contract without paying the roughly $14 million in buyout. Who gives a shit? He's an idiot. This puts Michigan, one of the nation's biggest problems, in a difficult position as the coaching carousel has largely stopped. Well, meaning most of them have been hired.
Yeah.
Associate head coach Biff Poggi has been named the interim coach for the Citrus Bowl. The firing of Sherrone Moore for cause has rocked the college football world. Does the sudden, high-profile dismissal signal a new zero-tolerance standard for personal conduct violations among major university athletic departments, even at the cost of immediate program stability?
All right, first of all, anyone whose name is Biff, jumping gigawatts, I always have to think of Biff from Back to the Future. So that's one thing. That's a sidebar. Secondly, Nick, I was out yesterday playing a unorganized pickup roller hockey game with some friends yesterday. They went down to a restaurant to watch the end of the Gulls road game in San Jose. And one of my friends and I were talking about this particular story, and they happen to be a Ohio State fan. And no, they weren't clowning them for beating them for the first time in 4 years. But I brought up though, Nick, and I think you probably would agree though. How can Michigan not get out of their own way over the last 2 to 3 years? And I say that for the fact of, let's go back in the archive.
Yes.
How Jim Harbaugh left the school after winning a natty in 2023 because of the Connor Stallions, sign stealing scandal.
He had his own violations too.
On top of the own violations he had from 2020 during COVID, where he was buying lunch for the kids. It was this, it was that, violations.
God forbid he buys lunch for the kids. It's such a bad thing.
Then let's go here now, late on Wednesday, where this story breaks about him being fired. Then more details come out, though, about this being involving, a inappropriate relationship with the staff member at the school. I guess I give props to Michigan for saying, "Hey, we have zero tolerance for this happening on our campus," but still, like any school would say that.
Well, it was no. Actually, the reason they're saying it that way is because Michigan actually has a stern
Yeah,
policy for any, even if it was a tolerable
yeah,
relationship, meaning like everyone was on the up and up. Apparently, they just don't allow any relationships within the staff, which I don't know if they can legally do that if it's a normal relationship, but I guess they're trying to avoid conflict if there's a
yeah,
relationship.
and you can't blame them for that. I know organizations who are that way as well. But I will agree, though, Nick, that the firing though of Sherrone Moore late last night, or at least kind of late for you, prime time for me out here
Show
on the
the
West
world.
Coast. I mean, it did because, and I think though, Nick, it adds another layer though. I think Bando would agree, D-Mart would agree, FP5 would agree.
We put a video out last night talking
This
about this.
this just adds another layer, Nick, to what's been a chaotic college football season when it comes to head coaches losing their jobs either for on-field play or shit like this.
Right, but I would say this is a far different
This
scenario.
is yeah, this is totally out of bounds. Like this is
Now,
uncalled for shit.
Sherrone Moore had already been suspended, I think, for 2 games
I
being
think he
part of.
was he suspended for maybe a role in the Harbaugh Stallions thing, or was it a
Yeah.
separate ordeal?
No, it was part of he was on the staff. He was just a replacement guy when Harbaugh finally said, "I'm not accepting this suspension. I'm just gonna go off to the NFL and coach,"
Right.
which I don't know how I feel about that. But anyway, um he was suspended for his part. I think he disposed of a phone or something with
He
text
probably I think
messages.
it was like destroying evidence, I want to say, as part of
Oh,
it.
Tom Brady approach, huh?
Yeah.
Um, I also saw something weird last night on this situation that supposedly he deleted the wrong cheating text messages last night.
I remember hearing about that actually.
So he had both him cheating against his wife and also the school situation, and he deleted the wrong ones. You can't make this one up. And on top of that, he's married with 3 kids.
Yeah, that's not good.
So I don't know. Michigan's had a really tough, 5 to 6 years of between violations and now.
Yeah, and that went to my point though about, how can the University of Michigan, you know, well known around the country, I would even say, Nick, around the world for that matter, if they're college football fans who live abroad.
Yeah, okay.
But how though can those blue helmets with the weird stripes on them and the whole, go blue, the blue club supports you, Mr. Brightside blaring at the big house after the third quarter and everyone singing the karaoke song of the 21st century for all the millennials out there like you and me. How in the world, though, Nick, can this university allow their football program that I think, though, is their main engine? Men's basketball's decent, women's basketball's decent, soccer's decent, baseball's decent, but everybody and their brother knows Michigan for football. And how, though, can they have these 2 scandals break out within a 3-year span is beyond my imagination.
Well, let's talk the timeline, okay? Because I think we need to, in case people were not following, but in case you're joining us now, Sherrone Moore, head coach of University of Michigan football, has been fired due to cause for an inappropriate relationship. The university found credible evidence he had engaged in an inappropriate relationship with a staff member. Shortly after Moore's firing, the 39-year-old coach was detained by Pittsfield Township Police with the help of and I'm going to get this, is it Saline Police Department? I don't
I
know.
believe it is, yeah. And
Uh,
it should be Winnesaw or Winneshaw County.
well, he was detained by Pittsfield with the help of the Saline Police Department, the former of which responded to a location for the purposes of investigating alleged assault. Pittsfield police in a statement said the suspect in the incident was taken into custody. Did not mention Moore's name at the time. Moore remains in custody at, what did you say, Washtenaw?
Winnesaw County.
Oh, okay. Winnesaw County Jail in Michigan after being booked at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on December 10th, which was yesterday.
5:30 Pacific.
So the Winnesaw County Court on the 11th confirmed it was aware of a pending investigation into Moore, but that no paperwork had been filed yet. So, yeah, this is kind of crazy. I don't know what to really. say, but on August 21st, 2023, Sherrone Moore faced a one-game suspension for being part of the Harbaugh stuff.
Credentialing scandal, yes.
The reason for Moore's suspension was his involvement in a separate recruit. Oh, wait a minute. He was involved in a separate recruiting violation.
So that's away from the Harbaugh situation. I'm guessing either during or after COVID.
It instead involved illegal communication with recruits during COVID-19, during the dead period.
Right.
Moore missed the season opener in 2023 due to self-imposed penalties by the Wolverines. May 5th, 2025, which is this year, Moore faced a 2-game suspension over the sign-stealing scandal involving Connor Stallions.
Right.
And Moore had deleted 52 text messages with Stallions.
Then it turns out he also wiped out the wrong thread, apparently, too.
Yes. August 15, 2025, Moore given show cause, additional suspension. This also involved Stallions. So he was set for week 1 of the 2020. Wait, that 1-game suspension for Moore was set for week 1 of the 2026 season. So he was going to be suspended.
It would have been next year if he was still there.
Week of September 13th to the 20th. Moore misses weeks 3 and 4 of the 2025 season as he serves his 2-game suspension. And actually, those games were played under Pogge at the time.
Right, they were.
December 10th, yesterday. Michigan announces at 4:43 p.m. Eastern Time that Moore was fired for cause after a university found credible evidence. And then he was detained and arrested. Let's see. As of 10:11 a.m. Eastern Time today, there has been no update to charges, bond information, or scheduled court appearances or release date. He's not getting released.
No.
According to
not anytime soon, at least. Yeah.
But there's other reports out there that he was threatening to commit suicide on himself. Now, I can't confirm that 100%, but it was out there with reports. So I have to say allegedly at this point in time because I don't know the full detail. But there also was another threat that he went to the mistress's house and took a knife and threatened it at her neck.
It's a scary thought.
And said, I was going to kill you, supposedly. There's something wrong with this man. I don't know what it is, and he might need some kind of mental evaluation of some sort.
And I think the thing that's stunning about this, Nick, before we get up to our next topic here for college football for hour 1, the timing of it though cannot be worse. Now, if there's one saving grace, which there is none here for what we're
tough
talking
to find.
Well, it is, but the only thing though is that Michigan's not in the CFP. They're playing in a rinky-dink bowl game in Orlando New Year's Eve against Texas. So it's not like he's out for the entire college football playoff. Regardless, though, Nick, it's a bad look, though, as I've been saying, though, for a program and a university like Michigan, who, again, people know so damn well because of their football program.
Oh, boy.
Twice within the last 3 years that this has happened.
Okay, the New York Post just put something up 52 minutes ago, which I did not know about this story either. And I find this weird that the New York Post, it is their verified account. It has a yellow check mark just for sake. Curvy OnlyFans model says fired Michigan coach Sherrone Moore slid into her DMs as more shady behavior was revealed. This is not getting any better.
If there's any merit to the story, I would agree. But yeah, this one has a long way to go, Nick, before it's figured out. And again, it's shameful that this has happened. It is.
I'm looking at the story. Oh yeah, it's definitely got some facts in it. The 39-year-old, $30 million head coach who was jailed on assault allegations following his dramatic firing for an inappropriate relationship sent fitness influencer and Mia Sority flirty messages. And she confirmed it by showing the messages. I wasn't surprised he was all in my DMs trying to risk it all with an OnlyFans model. Yeah, this is not good. This is bad. The 39-year-old coach who also follows her on Instagram, who is seen in a series of Steamy cleavage forward. Yeah, we know that we know what this is. Moore also attended one of Diddy's parties.
Great.
This is not getting any better. It's not.
No.
It says Moore went to a party at the Louisville Palace Hotel, which reportedly boasted themed VIP rooms. Oh my! This is like, you know, when you hear the beginning of a story and then all the pieces start to come out afterwards. Like that's what's happening now. Dude, you're married with 3 kids.
Like, what are you doing, man?
Like, you're willing to throw your whole life away just for an OnlyFans model?
Terrible.
Am I missing something here? Like,
no. With that, Nick, let's move on, though, here. We're going to stay in college football, of course. The other big elephant in the room, though, is the controversial omission from the 12-team CFP. The 10-2 Notre Dame Fighting Irish announced that they will be pulling out of a bowl game that they pulled out of bowl game consideration, mainly the Pop-Tarts Bowl, citing the decision as a team choice. However, though, Nick, in our playback chat, there's a TikTok reel, though, from Fox Sports 1's Emmanuel Ocho that I think, though, Nick, is where I fall in line with, and probably you do too. But mainly, though, that Emmanuel called it called the move weak, though. While also, Nick, we read the story, though, a couple nights ago, that in an opinion piece on Front Office Sports, lead writer Michael McCarthy called it a direct shot at ESPN. The financial fallout is significant as the Pop-Tarts Bowl is an event that is run on ESPN, and the Irish's decision to bypass the game financially harms both the bowl and their TV partner. Also, Nick, that this broke today because of the memorandum of understanding about Notre Dame making the CFP next season. We have gotten reports, though, that other conferences and leagues are now threatening to freeze out Notre Dame by not putting them on their schedules for the 2026-2027 season. So, Nick, was the decision by Notre Dame to opt out of their bowl game after the snub a justified, powerful statement against the perceived bias of the selection committee, or a financially damaging, self-interested move that weakens the integrity of the college football postseason? How about just what Emmanuel said, though, on TikTok by throwing a temper tantrum and taking their ball and going home?
I mean, I have the video if we want to...
Let's take a look at it and see.
I mean, I have a lot to say about this, but let's see what we got here.
From a program. This is the most pathetic, cowardly thing I've ever seen from a program. Pathetic, cowardly, embarrassing. It's childlike. This is what children do. Notre Dame is doing what children do when they don't get their way. They sit in the corner and they pout, they take their ball and they go home. That's what children do. I could expect this from a true freshman. I could even expect this from an individual player. Hey, I can't play in the championship game. Well, I don't want to play at all. But Marcus Freeman, you and the decision makers, the regents, the president, the athletic director, y'all are better than this. Y'all are adults. Those parents of those seniors, they didn't know that last game was their son's last game. The parents of those in the band and the cheerleader and the pom squad and all that, they didn't know that last game was their last game. You just robbed all of those individuals of their last game.
Wow.
The younger classmen, that extra 3 weeks of practice, you done robbed them of that. The bowl experience, the bowl gifts, playing another team at a conference, you robbed them of that. And all because y'all didn't get into the playoffs? If you can't believe...
So, I don't know if I look at it exactly from that point of view.
I do.
But how about if you're obligated to play a bowl game, go play the damn bowl game? Why? Because you're a crybaby and you missed the CFP because you think you were unfairly taken out? Like, oh, sorry, screw you.
Well, again, Nick, and this goes to the long arguments that we've been having all week on, ETB Sports, on MTGP leftovers with you and D-Mart setting the world on fire, you and Zan setting the world on fire on Wednesday when the episode dropped, is that, and who would have thunk it would be the guy in San Diego who doesn't care about American football having the best take of them all, that there's never going to be a proper college football playoff system.
Well, I agree with that. I don't think there's ever going to be a proper system that determines what teams get in. And now what is it, next year or when they expand the college football playoff that they're going to guarantee Notre Dame a spot. Like, what is this? This is collusion.
Yeah, and who's not to say that what if Notre Dame goes 0 for the season? You're just going to put them in the CFP with no wins on the year, hypothetically? Come on now.
Well, and also just all this nonsense of if they would just go to a system like I've suggested where you play all conference games leading up to the CFP, you don't have to judge losses. Oh, well, this loss was a better loss because it was against the top 5 ranked team. Stop with all the nonsense. Please. Just make it stop.
But in reality, I think Emmanuel's right though. In the big picture, he's right. Because Nick, you and I would both know we're uncles. We have nephews and nieces. We know that when they act up, they act like how Notre Dame acts. Like, well, I'm going to go and take my coloring book and go in the other room and color because you don't want to color with me or something like that. That's what this feels like, though, when it comes to in the big picture, though, Emmanuel's right, though. Who would have thunk, though, because of them not getting in, though, that those seniors played their final ever game, though, that day? The band, the cheerleaders, all that is part, though, of the entire team, though, believe it or not, in a roundabout way.
But from what Zan told me, apparently the seniors voted out of playing the game.
Then if that's the case, then that goes to then that could be it, though. But I also think, though, as Zan even said, though, Nick, though, on Wednesday, this is more of a reflection of Notre Dame as a whole.
Well,
not just Marcus Freeman, who I know is out there looking for an NFL job, perhaps. But I think, though, this damages that potential credibility that he might have.
Going to the NFL.
But this is all Pete Bavacqua's fault. I don't care what anybody out there says. This is all Pete Bavacqua's fault for how he has handled himself. And I'm glad, though, that Brett Yormark said something and said, dude, you're acting egregious right now. Shut the hell up and go away.
Well, also his comments against the ACC, which made no sense, and basically saying, I blame the ACC for damaging our value as a brand.
There's no permanent damage, Pete, when you as a football program are by yourselves. They're not doing any damage to basketball or ice hockey or baseball or your softball team coming to San Diego in March to play at USD. The only damage done was by you guys. More importantly, you lost game 1 against Miami. I remember, Nick, in every sport out there, the number 1 tiebreaker is head-to-head record. Gee whiz, look at that. Miami wins 27-24. There's why you're out. Not because of your record, because you lost to a team that ended up getting in over, by the way, they got in from that conference over the conference champion who had 5 losses. Give me a break.
Yeah, this is getting ridiculous. The Notre Dame AD is not a very intelligent person in my book. But to make those comments, and I'm trying to find it because it was, I think I found it. I mean, it's just insane. Like what he went on the Dan Patrick show and totally just
made a fool of himself. Just call it for what it is, or better, he made an ass of himself.
So I found the comment because he talks about how he thinks his brand is damaged, which I think is just insane. First of all, you can't damage the Notre Dame brand. That's just insane.
No.
But I want everyone to hear this because he talks about the brand being damaged and he goes after the ACC.
I don't understand why you would go on a social media campaign to attack an important partner. Who's some of our important partners in the football space? NBC. We wouldn't do that to NBC.
Oh, shut up.
Now, I understand they have to stand up for their teams in football. We just think there's other ways to do it. And it has created damage. I mean, I'm not going to shy away from that. And that's just not me speaking. People a lot more important at this university than me feel the same way. So I think it has done some real damage, and I think the ACC knows that.
Really?
Yeah, there's no damage, Mr. Bavacqua, being done when, again, you aren't an ACC affiliate for football. You are an independent program, just like every military academy out there.
Well, by technicality, they do play on.
They play 5 ACC opponents every year. It's a working agreement. That's all that they got.
Right. I'm not saying they're an ACC conference team, but they do have
basketball. Then absolutely, but football is a whole different thing. And Zan Bando just dropped something in regarding about Paul Feinbaum here, courtesy of the Sporting News website. But
this is a story that he wrote for Sporting News that Paul Feinbaum name drops conference Notre Dame football would be perfect in, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But it's just the Notre Dame Pete Bavacqua is one of the dumbest ADs I've ever seen in my life. Like,
I don't agree more. And I think that this week is just really, in a way, showing true colors here.
So you're a brand on your own. And by the way, you caused a what's the saying? When one person does it and the rest of the people do it behind them.
Domino effect.
Thank you. A domino effect. By you opting out of games, then other teams started opting out of games because they said, well, as I have to sneeze.
Yeah, it was like a game of following the leader.
Yes. And
well, if Notre Dame does it, then we should do it too.
Because what do you think people are going to do when other schools see big brand schools doing something? What are they going to do? They're going to follow the action.
Follow the leader.
So Bavacqua was an idiot to say that the ACC hurt their brand. How about worry about yourself? How about better yet, if the NCAA would do the right thing, they would say, "Hey, Notre Dame, either get in the conference or get the fuck out."
And again, I think that the ACC, in a way, screwed themselves because of tiebreakers, Nick, because how does the ACC champion, again, I don't care about the 7-5 record. Duke won the damn title. But because Miami has a better record than them and they 10-2 and they didn't play each other or whatever it may have been, that goes to my point, your point, Zan's point, D-Mart's point in some roundabout way. We're never going to have a right system that I agree upon, though I don't care about college football. You agree upon, Bando agrees upon, D-Mart agrees upon, Will Charlton of 60 Minutes doesn't agree upon. It's just going to be this chaotic time where, in a way, this is like the only time ever, I think, Nick, that we get really fired up here on our programs where we debate each other when it comes to this stupid, flawed, inconsistent system in college athletics.
And I don't know how you fix this, but of course the NCAA had to get involved and say, "Oh, well, Notre Dame, blah, 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 blah. We'll make an agreement to make sure they get in." And I want to make sure.
And that goes, Nick, to the other point, though, that broke this morning before we came on the air, though, that now apparently conferences and leagues and schools might be freezing out Notre Dame off their schedule because of what the new stipulation is.
Yeah, I'm just looking up the story just to make sure I have accurate. Okay. So in the wake of Notre Dame's controversial exclusion from this year's college football playoff, Yahoo Sports' Ross Dillinger reported that as part of the memorandum of understanding signed by the CFP last spring, Notre Dame is essentially guaranteed a playoff spot if it is ranked in the top 12 beginning next year.
And now that's leading to this domino effect now that we've heard that conferences, leagues, and even teams are going to try to freeze them out of playing them now.
It says, moreover, should the playoff field expand to 14 teams and an additional at-large berths are added, the Irish are a lock for a spot if they are ranked number 13 or better.
So that's the first hit of a 14-team playoff. All I've heard is 16 or that ridiculous 24-team bracket that Fox Sports kept chugging out every week.
It says, well, apparently that little factoid has not gone over well with the athletic directors at other programs. Those leaders are now threatening to freeze Notre Dame out of future schedules as a result. For all its issues, Notre Dame fills stadium and drives TV ratings.
I mean, at this rate, could you blame these other schools for wanting to freeze out Notre Dame for how they've been acting?
Yeah, but I hate to say this, and not that I want to defend Notre Dame, but that's collusion.
It is.
And I feel like we've used that word a lot on this show for many different reasons. Aspiration. But
whoa. By the way, in the event, I just looked, in the event they go to a 14-team bracket, Nick, only the number 1 and number 2 teams get buys.
I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. Because then
that
wouldn't be a representation of each conference then.
Yeah, but it would go 1 bye, 8-9, 4-13, 5-12, 2 seed, 7-10, 3-14, 6-11.
Jesus. I'm going to need an abacus to figure that out. But I don't know. It's Notre Dame opened up a can of worms, and now teams are not going to want to play them anymore because they felt like they deserved way more than everybody else, and now everybody else is going to say, screw you.
Which, Nick, in related bowl news, the Big 12 Conference, though, hit a couple of schools where it hurts in the wallet, issuing $500,000 fines to both the Iowa State Cyclones and the K-State Wildcats for also following Notre Dame's lead and opting out of their respective bowl games. Both schools, though, cited midseason coaching changes, with Matt Campbell defecting ISU for Penn State and Chris Kleiman retiring from Kansas State, and also player safety and player availability as primary reasons. The Big 12's firm stance, though, underscores the contractual obligations that conferences have to their bowl partners and the conference's intent to enforce stability despite player and coaching volatility as the season goes on. Which I think, Nick, before we get to the question, this even led to like I think 6 different 5 and 7 schools who got calls and like, hey, we already told our guys we're in off-season mode.
Well, they had 7 wins or they had 5 wins. Most of those teams didn't think they were going to make the playoffs. Who would have thought that Notre Dame and all these other teams were going to opt out in the process of this situation going on? So I don't blame them for saying, screw you, we don't need this.
So with that, Nick, though, the Big 12's decision, though, to fine both the Cyclones and the Wildcats a whopping $500,000 for opting out of the bowl game shows a clear prioritization of contractual fulfillment over player wellness and coaching transition stability. Is this move, though, necessary by a conference, or is it a out-of-touch reaction to the new realities of college football? I think, Nick, this could be both. But bravo, Big 12, for stepping up and actually showing some damn cojones here in wake of what we saw with Notre Dame.
I mean, first off, because you know what? And this goes back to partially what I was saying about Notre Dame before, that if you're going to fine Iowa State and you're going to fine Kansas State $500,000,
to your point,
for not making the bowl,
Notre Dame millions of dollars.
And I'm going to say it again. Notre Dame should be fined millions. ESPN is going to lose a shitload of money over them not being in the bowl game. NBC's losing branding over this for them not competing in games. Okay? This is ridiculous. You can't find 2 schools and then say, oh, it's Notre Dame. We're not going to fine them because we don't want to lose our TV deals or our branding or the CFP or all this other nonsense. This is ridiculous. You got to be fair across the whole landscape of college football if you're going to find teams. Now, looking at the question, you were saying, is it opting up for fulfillment of player wellness? First of all, if you make a bowl game, you got to make the appearance.
Yeah.
Bowl games should not be, you shouldn't have the option to opt out of a bowl game.
And real quick, let me get on the soapbox real quick here. For all of you out there who say that, well, it's a game, it doesn't mean anything. It's this, it's that. Can we please remember real quick, and this is Mr. Mid, Nick, forget Mr. Small Market for everything. How about I just go by Mr. Mid-Major?
Mid-market.
Mid-major when it comes to college athletics. Because I work at a mid-major here in San Diego. I worked at a Division II university for 7 years too. So Mr. Mid-major is going to get on the soapbox here. Can we please remember, I understand it if you're a diehard college football fan, which I am not, for the millionth time in the first 48 minutes of this damn show today.
You're more into the scene of college football than NFL.
Even then, can we please remember that this is one more game for all these kids, as Emmanuel kind of said, though, about Notre Dame, taking their ball and going home and not wanting to play in the Pop-Tarts Bowl in Orlando, Florida, for God's sakes.
I need to interrupt for 1 second, and then I'll let you finish that point, which is, if you're an NFL prospect, now, I don't agree with this fully either, but if you're a big-time NFL prospect, you're not going to play in a bowl game. That just doesn't happen. Because can you imagine if you got hurt in a bowl game and you couldn't be drafted into the NFL and you hurt your draft stock by injury? That's the point I'm trying to get at. But you're right in other aspects that you want to play your final game. Because what's the percentage of college football players that make the NFL draft even? What is it, 1 to 3%, maybe?
If that.
So you're right from that standpoint that most people, this is their final game.
Yeah, and that goes back to Mr. Mid-Major. Again, I live in San Diego, California, as you know. Yes, I'm wearing a Creighton basketball jersey because this was the school I nearly went to when I was coming out of high school to play baseball. but the body said, no, get into broadcasting, you're done playing. Anywho, I get that people don't like the bowl system, Nick. I, for one, enjoy it because it's actually when I watch, because I'm always in pools every year for the bowl season. Not only is it the last game for a lot of these seniors who probably aren't going to play beyond their time here. Maybe they go play indoor. Maybe they go play in Canada. They go play, I don't know where. Maybe the Olympics in 3 years.
Or maybe they go to broadcasting.
Are they going to broadcasting? Exactly. As someone who had gone to the Holiday Bowl religiously in San Diego and the Poinsettia Bowl before that game folded and before they tore down Jack Murphy Stadium, what people forget here is that when these schools come to a city like San Diego, for example, and just to brag again, it is currently 75 degrees at 11:50 in the morning on December 11th. It's bright and sunny outside of my living room window.
That's crazy.
It was 81 yesterday. It's 75 today.
Wow.
But imagine, though, Nick, if you are the Arizona Wildcats and the SMU Mustangs. Those are the two teams coming here for the Trust and Will Holiday Bowl in January, which, by the way, almost got moved to Saudi Arabia over the course of the season.
That's a whole different issue. That's a whole different issue for another day.
That's besides the point. Imagine, though, that you're coming from Tucson, Arizona, and Dallas, Texas, to San Diego a week after Christmas. You get a whole week in the city to explore the zoo, SeaWorld, the waterfront, the weather, the food, the parade down Harbor Drive. Didn't get to play the game. Didn't get to watch fireworks after the game's over with a local radio station sponsoring the Sky Show, as they have here for so long. By the way, I looked it up, though. The Pop-Tarts Bowl, where Notre Dame should have been, is going to be Georgia Tech and BYU.
Yeah, and my whole frustration with BYU this year also.
Do you think, though, that those kids in Provo are going to be enjoying life going to Orlando, Florida in December to play a game against Georgia Tech?
No.
Along with all the other nuances of the giant Pop-Tart being sacrificed when the game's over and put through the toaster?
That's still my favorite thing ever.
Here's my long tangent from Mr. Mid-Major. The bowl games have purpose for a market like San Diego with a very much fringe Division I program, no NFL team being in town. Tourism dollars and hotels drive this city during the slow season when it's full of tourists around the holidays. That's the point, Nick, about the bowl system I know people don't like. SDSU is going to Albuquerque, New Mexico for their bowl game. That gives money to a school much like UNM, and also, Nick, that the payouts, though, I think the Holiday Bowl pays about $5 million, $6 million for a payout.
Actually, no. I was reading that some of them are getting $7 or $8 million or is that the CFP? That might be the CFP.
But the Holiday Bowl usually pays about $4.5 to $6 million every year.
So Zan said, "Cal, will you go to the Holiday Bowl?"
Sadly, Zan, I got to work the night that the bowl game is here because before we move on here, and I get up and I'm off the soapbox, is usually the Holiday Bowl is like 2 days after Christmas, but there was a lot of talk, which is scary, that the Holiday Bowl, much like everything in my city, would have been relocated out of town to freaking Saudi Arabia.
Well,
which would have made absolutely no sense because the bowl game couldn't find a sponsor till the day of the announcement of who was going to come to town.
Maybe we'll talk about that on a separate interview now that separate small video now that we're doing everything on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah, but Zan, no. I mean, I went a lot. I went and saw a lot of games for God, I think my dad and I and my mom and my parents, my brother, friends of ours. I think we went I think 10 years in a row we went to the Holiday Bowl.
Yeah,
because we got to see Aaron Rodgers at Cal, Sonny Cumbie at Texas Tech. My folks went to the first 5 games in a row, and it was BYU versus Navy, or BYU because it used to be when the WAC was still playing football. And then also Nick Zan asked, BYU should have made the CFP over JMU and Tulane. Do you agree?
Yeah, because I've been on the BYU train the whole entire season because they were undefeated for most of the season. By the way, Zan is actually going to the Music City Bowl because I think Illinois is in that game. So
enjoy.
That's in Nashville.
Games are fun.
I think that's in Nashville.
Yeah, it's at Nissan Stadium.
But yes, BYU should have made the CFP. They were undefeated most of the season. And this goes back to my point that, you could be undefeated, but because you're undefeated and you played your schedule, it's not good enough for the college football committee.
Oh, you didn't win the Big 12 title game, so go screw yourself.
Well, not even that. Oh, your schedule is weak, so even though you're undefeated, screw off.
I mean, honestly, though, and I will say, though, if BYU beats Texas Tech, they're in the 4th spot. They're in not Texas Tech as the Big 12 champ.
Well, they would have been in the CFP if they
Yeah.
won, but they were undefeated most of the season.
I know.
The point I don't get is we're penalizing teams for being undefeated? Explain that one to me.
Yeah, how do you... That would be like, Nick, in a way, like in baseball. The Dodgers win back-to-back World Series, but, they were too good. But the Yankees and the Blue Jays win the World Series, not the Dodgers, for example.
I don't know if that's the same exact thing, but...
In a way, but my point is, in a way, the committee rewards, not rewards, how can I phrase it? The committee, in a way, undervalues winning, in a way.
No, that you're 100% right. That, you had a tough loss against Ohio State on the road, but you kept it close. The quarterback had 300 yards, but they lost. Who cares? You lost. Can you imagine in any other sport? And this is the argument I make to Zan and I make to Nick D all the time. Oh, because Nick D says to me, well, the conference. I don't care if the conferences are the same. I don't care. Or I don't care if the SEC is stronger than other conferences. You play the schedule that's in front of you.
Exactly. And and I think the only other sport that would reward losing is
college basketball.
Not even that. The NHL. If you get to overtime or a shootout, you still get a standings point, even though you lose the game, but it doesn't count in the L column. It goes to the overtime.
You know how ridiculous that is, right?
Because you were talking about, how the NHL used to have ties. Yeah, that's now OT or SO for losing an overtime or a shootout.
So you're basically getting a point if you somehow get to overtime.
Yeah.
Which, again, and I'm not a hockey guy, but I get that, where, if you just play your ass off and you make it to overtime, well, I guess that is some incentive to still try to win a game, at least.
And in a way, they use it as well to break ties in the standings, unless teams are tied on points and they go to the head-to-head records, as we already said. Miami over Notre Dame because head-to-head victory.
But I guess it makes sense, like, in hockey, that pushes you to play harder because you don't want a loss. So at least you get an overtime point if you don't lose the game in regulation.
And maybe soccer, but they reward ties and wins over losing. You lose a game, you lose a game. But if you tie, you get a point.
But BYU was 11-0
exactly.
At one point. How, for most of the rankings, when they start in the first week of November, they were not in the top 10. How? Notre Dame had 2 losses.
Oh, and Nick, remember back, though, when the season began, before we move on here to our next college football topic here, can we all remember that at one point, Notre Dame, with a goose egg in the win column, was ahead of USC, who had 2 wins on the year to start the season?
I just want to look this up because I don't remember.
I think, Nick, SC was 25, and Notre Dame, with no wins, was still 23rd, or ahead of USC.
Just so you know, BYU was 11-2.
Yes.
11-2. How many losses did Alabama have? Seriously? So
and do you know how many losses Georgia Tech has? And they were in the running for the CFP until they stubbed their toe a couple times.
BYU was 11-2. Alabama was 9-3. Who's in the CFP? Alabama.
3 letters for you. SEC.
I don't care. I've said that many times. I don't care. And Nick D, for the millionth time, who says to me, well, the SEC is stronger than everybody else. Okay, so you're telling me the College Football Committee has an SEC bias. That's what you're telling me.
Yeah.
If we don't put 5 or 6 SEC teams in, our ratings are going to plummet. Well, maybe if you made the rules properly and said, we market the teams that make the CFP and not your dumb biases being put in the way, we would actually have a great CFP.
And to Zan's point, I get about BYU getting in. I think they should have. But also, I think that's where the rules a little bit convoluted, though. Though I'm Mister, mid major.
What do they call those bids, by the way? The power, the 5 bids or whatever they call that.
At large.
But there was another name for it too, because they call it like the 5 schools or whatever they call it. But
Group of 5.
Yeah, thank you. These group of 5 automatic bids need to go away. Awful.
Yeah, I mean, I for one don't mind like a JMU or Tulane getting in. I know Nick will disagree though because of the fact like, well, they're going to get beat 73, nothing like the Bears beat the Redskins in 1940. If that's the case, then so be it though. But I think it's a good change of pace to get a program though, Nick, who I think like Tulane and JMU, they could. I mean, that $6 million payout for them getting to the CFP though could go a long way for that program, especially when JMU has been changing conferences. Tulane's had a bit of a nice resurrection story over the past 20 years after Katrina came through. Can we talk about Central Florida in 17? Can we talk about Cincinnati getting clobbered? TCU getting all. I know what happens all the time, but at the end of the day, it's a change of pace though that I appreciate because. Yeah. Is it a one-off, though, that TCU beat the crap out of Georgia to get to the title game and they got rolled? Sure. But I think it's something that should be rewarded, though, if there's a team out there. Again, it's not the sexy name. Like, that would be, like a JMU or Tulane getting in. I don't care if the scoreline is what it is. Those guys are out there playing for a potential chance to, make history for that program and maybe perhaps get 1 round deep, 2 rounds deep or whatnot. Now, will the inevitable probably happen? Yes, but I will stand my ground and say, keep adding them in, whether or not that we like it or not.
Yeah, but I still have a problem back in the 2023 CFP where FSU was 13-0. And because their quarterback was injured, the CFP said, we're not putting them in. You're 13-0.
But that also went to my other point, though, before I move on here, is that when that happened with Florida State not getting in because, well, you're on your 3rd string quarterback, but it's not going to sell on TV. We're going to leave you out. Florida State, though, Nick, did it to themselves, though, too, when they became sore losers by everybody sitting out the game and like 5th string guys were playing. And then Georgia beat the crap out of them like 33 or 55-3.
Yeah, but they were 13-0, man. Come on. Like, the CFP didn't like that their 1st string quarterback was injured, so they left them out?
2nd string quarterback was out, too. So, yeah, like 3rd string quarterback, like, give me a break. Like, that was ridiculous. Yeah.
Who cares who the quarterback is? The team was – Jordan Travis was the result of the 13-0. And now you're going to tell me that because he's magically not playing, the team – they knew that the team was going to get clobbered?
Yeah, and what was your quote on Wednesday? That it's like forecasting the future without like knowing the result.
Fallacy of a predetermined outcome.
There you go.
It is a fallacy. What did Stan say? JMU recently became an FBS team, so I couldn't be happier for them.
Yeah,
I think if you're going to take a group of 5 team, take 1. Yeah, that I agree with. Also, Ole Miss smoked Tulane, so they should have negated them. Yes, Ole Miss. Fair. That was a whole different thing too, but. I hate that the committee thinks that they can determine the future on a fallacy of a predetermined outcome. Let the results tell the story.
Yes.
To be honest, I don't think there should be a college football committee. I don't know why they went away. Now, I didn't like the BCS system either, that a computer was determining everything.
I mean, before we move on, why not just go our route and just use artificial intelligence to rank the damn 12 best teams, for God's sake?
You got to be careful with that too, but because you don't know if that's 100% accurate. But how about here's a dumb thought. Let's use the records.
Too logical.
And then, because Nick D tried to tell me, well, then you're going to have like 5 10-2 teams. Well,
that's fine.
Okay. Then if there's head-to-heads, now I get the one point where he says not every team plays every team. But if you played conference all the way through, and then you said, because we're going to have what? Now we're going to have 14 teams or 16 teams, it looks like.
Yes.
So if we have four conferences, that technically would be 4 teams each. Or if you really want to make it 3 teams each, that would be 12. And then you can take Notre Dame because they have to be guaranteed a spot. And then you want to have like 3 wild cards, like that have the best records after it. That would be 16. Do it that way. Like,
just adopt the FCS system and call it a day, for God's sakes.
Just take the best records. This is not rocket science. They're making it rocket science.
They are. All right, Nick, we have spilled over into hour 2, but we'll keep chugging on here for hour number 1. Also, in massive college sports news, the Utah Utes have made a massive pioneering move to secure its athletic financial future, finalizing a $500 million private equity deal with investment group Otro Capital to launch what is being called Utah Brands and Entertainment. This new entity, majority owned by the university's foundation, will help manage lucrative revenue streams like corporate sponsors, licensing, and ticketing. The upfront capital infusion will help Utah navigate the new financial realities of the Big 12 Conference and also the looming $20.5 million revenue sharing mandate for all student athletes. Nick, by selling off a portion of its future commercial revenue to a private equity firm for $500 million, has Utah established a vital new financial model for stability, or they sacrifice long-term control of their brand for short-term financial security? I will go with option B, Mr. Rayburn.
This is a weird story. I'm on the wrong story. Here we go. By selling off a portion of future commercial revenue to the equity firm, has the university established a vital new financial model stability, or they? Oh, it's B for sure.
It is.
They sacrificed long-term control of their brand. Now, there's some controversy over this too, because
and we've talked about private equity though coming into college sports though over the last several shows, or early on when we first brought the program here.
So it says University of Utah will go down in NCAA history as the first college athletic department to accept private equity money. This week, the school announced, now this is going to be interesting, that the formation of Utah Brands and Entertainment LLC.
Yes.
A new company owned by the University of Utah Foundation. Utah Brands and Entertainment will now own, quote, select core revenue generating operations. The new business will partner with Otro Capital, a private equity firm with deep operational experience in sports, entertainment, and media, to help support and strengthen this new venture and its long-term growth potential. And the new venture is expected to generate as much or more than $500 million in capital.
We've talked about PE deals, though, Nick, for college athletics, though, like really early, as I said, when the show came here back in April or May when I first joined it about 8 months ago. This, I think, though, is beginning a domino effect where I'm sure, Nick, that we're going to have more of these deals. I think that this also includes like a jersey patch for the football program, I want to say. I would not be surprised if they get like naming right deals for Rice-Eccles Stadium or even for the basketball arena or the baseball field. But this certainly, Nick, is going to be a story that I think will probably be a stepping stone for more of these deals to be made, though, as time goes on.
I don't know how I feel about it because private equity is crossing into muddy waters a little bit.
Especially in college athletics now.
Because now they're starting to treat it like professional sports. NCAA President Charlie Baker said this week on SBJ that, quote, it's really well thought out and really well designed, praising the concept for keeping decision-making in-house to Utah Athletic Department. Baker has long been skeptical of shifting too much power to private equity. Quote, my message to everybody on this would be really simple. Be really careful about private equity deals. I don't know. You're going to have a lot of issues with conflict of interest a little bit here also, because now you're crossing over rules of, is this even collegiate sports anymore? Now with private equity being involved, is it becoming now sports as an investment in college sports? It says the decision to share revenues with student athletes under the House settlement and the emergence of the transfer portal have disrupted the status quo and introduced significant costs to the university. The cost of supporting a nationally competitive athletics program has risen dramatically and far outpaces revenue growth. Now we wait to see if this opens the floodgates on private equity investment.
Yeah, I mean the $500 million is cool though, but what I'm afraid of though, Nick, and yes, this is Mr. Mid major slash Mr. Anti football speaking again. My only concern though is that how much of that money is going to go elsewhere
That
around the athletic department.
that's the issue I have. I don't know what's going to happen,
Because
and
believe it or not, I think at Utah the number 2 team away from football and basketball and what have you, believe it or not, Nick, is their gymnastics team.
right.
They sell out every meet that they have in, at Utah. So my only concern though, again, is that with, this deal sounds great, but again, how much of that money is going only to football and no one else?
This also says, and I didn't see this in the other story, a president from outside the university will preside over the company and report to a board chaired by Utah Athletic Director Mark Harlan with seats for trustees and Otro executives. So this is what you were talking about. We're kind of muddying the waters because now they're bringing in people from the outside to.
That almost sounds like a what do they call those in the NFL? The PSLs with them putting like names on seats now or whatever.
Well, no, this has to do with running the operation, the business.
Oh, okay.
That they're bringing in people from the outside of the college university to now they're bringing in a president from outside the university to run this business operation.
I don't think this is going to go over very well.
The project includes a fascinating wrinkle. The university is offering a prominent group of donors the ability to purchase a stake in Utah brands and entertainment. Already, university officials have culled a small donor base to generate millions in purchase agreements. The more than 500 million capital figure includes both the 9-figure cash infusion from Otro as well as those capital commitments from donors. So we're kind of crossing into a little too many different baskets. A little
this
here.
feels like dangerous territory, and I really don't like it.
Utah Brands Entertainment will house most of the components traditionally held within the university's athletic department, including many athletic personnel with divisions. However, fundraising will remain with the school. There's a little too much going on.
There's too much, and there's too many hands in the cookie jar, and now you have outside influence now infiltrating college athletics when it comes to the hierarchy of how it's run.
You saw the thing that happened with Michigan State also, right?
I don't think I did.
So Michigan State announced its own capital infusion of sorts in the form of a $401 million donation.
The link story that we were talking about, though, was about the California University Pension Fund trying to get stake in the Big Ten.
That's the Big Ten itself, but that deal fell apart due to all the schools not agreeing. But Michigan State announced over the last week that they got a $400+ million donation, a portion of which will go towards its new athletics entity. So they're doing the same thing. But this was not what Utah is doing, where they're creating a full business. I think that's whoever donated it is just saying, hey, we'll make an entity for it and we'll figure it out. But this is crazy. And this is what you said. Big Ten officials nearly reached the point of a vote on a $2.4 billion capital deal before USC and Michigan scuttled that. I didn't realize how big private equity was going to become in college sports, or that they really thought it was a business.
And I think, Nick, that we both hope that it doesn't get too out of control where it starts ruining it. But I think it almost feels like a point of no return now.
I'll read one more thing. According to the website, Otro seeks to invest in, quote, sports teams, leagues, and ecosystem businesses with strong intellectual property. The company was founded in 2023 by partners Alex Sheener, Neeraj Shah, and Brent Stichlik, and Isaac Hillard, who all served as senior executives at Redbird Capital. Redbird Capital is a big company that does a lot of investing.
Redbird Capital, I believe, was what Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Danny Garcia, and his ex-wife had for the USFL/XFL merger, I think, and a bunch of other things too.
So this is all becoming investment. That's really what it's become. Also, Otro's portfolio includes Formula One, Alpine Racing Team, Flexworks Sports Marketing, an event company. What else do they have? Utah Brands and Entertainment, which we talked about. Otro invested $200 million in Alpine Racing to own a 24% stake.
That doesn't surprise me.
So essentially what this business is they take pieces of companies and they invest capital, and that's how they make money.
All right, Nick, we'll get away from college sports for one last topic for the hour one that has bled over into hour two. But of course, Nick, the emerging unrivaled women's basketball league, co-founded by Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, has announced a massive expansion of its partnership with Sephora USA, giving the prestige beauty retailer naming rights to the league's Miami headquarters and arena. And will now be called Sephora Arena this upcoming unrivaled season starting next month. This is a massive milestone for the player-owned league and marks one of the first times a major beauty brand has secured naming rights for a pro sports venue, signaling the immense and unique corporate appeal that women's sports now have. Nick, does the naming of Unrival's venue as Sephora Arena prove that women's sports have achieved a new level of cultural relevance nowadays that appeals to a diverse range of non-traditional corporate sponsors, whereas the focus on a beauty brand, a form of market niche segmentation that limits broader traditional sports business appeal? Option A. I mean, this kind of in a way, Nick, kind of disrupts like what we're used to with naming right partners across any sort of.
How is this any different than any other?
How is it any different? Oh, just because it's Sephora. Who cares?
I said this to you last night when we were putting the show together. Like, who cares what the naming rights sponsor is? I mean, what was it? Heinz Field became
Acrisure Stadium,
which people were pissed about. Like, or
Staples Center going to
Crypto.com Arena. Like, who gives a shit about what the naming rights are of the arena? Who cares?
The only name we care about is Mortgage Matchup Center in Phoenix, Arizona, because we talk about so damn much on this damn show.
Well, that's controversial because he's the team owner and he put his own brand in for whatever reason. But this is ridiculous. People are going to, Sephora's a beauty brand and it has nothing to do with sports and it has nothing to do with basketball. So, who cares? Sephora, actually, believe it or not, is a good marketing match for the WNBA because last time I checked, it's the Women's National Basketball Association.
Heading towards a lockout.
Okay, put that aside for a second. But my point is that last time I checked, who uses Sephora brand products again?
Exactly.
Now, I'm not saying men can't, but my point is that it's a women-driven market. And I think this is a no-brainer for Unrivaled.
Pun intended. I think this is a slam dunk. I think it makes total sense, though, that Sephora would expand their brand, already sponsoring the league. But now, though, they slap their name, though, on the building, on the arena/headquarters. That gets more eyes, though, when the season begins in January on TNT and on True. That, hey, Sephora's got, naming rights on the court. They've got, ads around the building, I'm sure. There'll be, I'm sure, Nick, allocated commercial time for Sephora. Like, how's this not a slam dunk for them? Give me a break.
Yeah, this has got to be like men talking. Like, oh well, it's not a sports brand, so there's no way it's going to work. Or you're Kathy Engelbert, and you don't think it's going to work either.
Oh, Kathy Engelbert can go and kick rocks and stub her toe.
She probably well, we're not a competitor. Unrivaled's not a competitor to us, so we think they suck.
Yeah, and again, folks, we're still keeping an eye, though, on the WNBA lockout news. Again, the new deadline, as mentioned, is now January 9th. Ironically enough, Nick, 4 days after the Unrivaled season begins. We talked about, though, on the last show that we had about the lockout. Yeah,
we'll have more time to do that since we'll have more expansion place to do that. But I think this is men talking who don't like the fact that beauty brands. What's that other brand that the NBA is sponsored by? The Kardashians brand.
Skims.
Oh, I'm sorry. That shouldn't be allowed either because it's a women's underwear brand. Even though they say they have men's stuff, but in that theory, should that be the same thing?
Yeah, it's almost like a double standard.
I don't know. Make sure to check out ETB Small Market Edition, where we dive into the teams and the stories that dominate local headlines, but shake up national narratives on your podcast app And mark your calendars. ETB Lounge is debuting on January 5th and January 10th. And it looks like we're moving that time up a little bit. 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern, starting on Monday. Monday of 2026 on January 5th. And on January 10th, it will be 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time. So please check out ETB Small Market Edition, which you've been working hard on a lot.
New episode drops tomorrow morning.
Correct. And ETB Lounge, which used to be Playback Lounge. Unfortunately, we had to make a brand switch there. But ETB Lounge will be every Monday, as I said, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. And on Saturdays from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time with Nick DiMartino. So please go check it out.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun putting all the content together. So we hope that you'll join us when those two shows do debut next month to kick off the new year.
That's crazy that it's next month already.
I know, right? Goodness. I mean, we're what? Like, today's
you're
the 11th.
You're less than a month away.
Oh, yeah. And well, I'm doing some quick math. We are literally, Nick, 2 weeks away from Christmas Day. Can you believe that?
Holy fuck.
I haven't done any shopping either.
I've done some, and we still have stuff to get finished for the holidays here.
I know, it's crazy. But with that, though, Nick, into our hour two topics, though, here. I think we're whatever. I mean, we don't really have much. I mean, we do have a time limit, though, but yes. Nick, following the controversial final CFP bracket revealed back in college football, multiple ESPN analysts, though, publicly questioned the utility of the weekly rankings reveal show. FOS confirms that the new media right deal, though, does lock ESPN into 5 weekly ranking shows when the playoff bracket or when the playoff rankings do come out, leading up to the final reveal on Sunday after conference title game Saturday. The obligation forces ESPN to air a show that many now see as creating unnecessary, non-final controversy that undermines the final committee decision after title game Saturday. So, Nick, when ESPN's media right deal contract mandates 5 CFP ranking shows that analysts themselves now criticize as problematic, does the contract's financial riggedy undermine the integrity and fan-friendly nature of the CFP process? What do you think?
First of all, there is no fan-friendly nature to the CFP. I'm just going to put that out there now, because if there was fan-friendly nature to the CFP, they wouldn't have put Alabama in. They wouldn't have put in some of these other schools. And you would have schools like BYU in. So there's no fan-friendly process to this whatsoever. The media rights and the whole thing with ESPN, first of all, the rankings shows are a TV vehicle.
They are. There's
no rhyme or reason. Like when Chris Fowler sits down with the chairman, which the original chairman was thrown out due to bad behavior. What was it? The Nebraska AD, yes. I think it was. Who is it now? I forgot which AD it is now, but
I forget.
It is the most awkward interview of all time when they do that. Let's go to the AD of this school who's the head of the college football playoff. Can you please tell us why you chose this school? It is the most boring thing of all time.
I mean, can we just say that it's pointless and useless, or what?
Think about what I said early on about the AP rankings and how they always do the college football ranking show. It's all for TV. You really think anyone cares where the schools rank? The rankings mean nothing until November.
Can I play devil's advocate or play apples to oranges real quick?
Yeah.
Could you imagine, Nick, if Joe Lunardi was the lead host of his bracketology show 5 weeks before we got to March Madness, and they did this stupid thing every single week leading up to Selection Sunday?
Well, they kind of do on ESPN, because I know he did. I don't know if he works for ESPN anymore. Like, he did it for many years, but they would come on. Remember, they would do the first 5 in and the first 5 out.
They still do, but could you imagine, though, if it was like a spectacle for TV, where I think it's just mainly like a very quick little blurb on SportsCenter or it's on social media?
No, they do. They have a college basketball ranking show also. All right, here's our current rankings based on. It's enough. Just stop with the spectacle. The only reason they do, personally, I think the reason why they have the committee is because they have a rankings TV show that they have to fill. If there was no rankings TV show to fill, you wouldn't need a college football committee to decide the rankings. You wouldn't. It's a spectacle for TV.
And that's kind of just where I think that things like this are at now. And I think though, Nick, that here's another phony comparison, another phony baloney comparison. In a way, Nick, I think of it this way now because of what we just teased before we went back to the topics. Morgeson, what's the whole point of the ETB Lounge starting up on January 5th and the 10th?
Well, what was I going to say? Just to have a fun atmosphere, really, to talk sports.
But it's also along the lines, Nick, of like a debate like this, though, when it comes to things of this nature. And I say that, when I say that, is it's like, in a way, that's the premise. And that, being locked in, though, for these 5 shows is that, in a way, it's like having a barroom discussion that you can get 5, 10, 20, 30 different opinions from people around the bar. That's kind of what I feel like, though, that the CFP is, though, because in a way, it's only there for these shows to get people talking about the college football playoff over 5 weeks. That's kind of that was kind of the tinge I was trying to make, though, about the lounge, is that, I'm going to give you a take or, a thought. And in a way, we all, in a way, give our thoughts about this sort of ordeal.
Right.
That's what this feels like, though, is that it's 5 weeks of torture just to get people talking about, well, why is my team not in it? Well, why is this team in it? Blah, 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 blah.
Right. But I feel like that's more manufactured a little bit, these ranking shows a little bit, because think about it. Have you noticed sometimes when we end up on these ranking shows that you always hear, ironically, you hear a controversial take about the rankings every single time on those ranking shows? Would you agree?
Yes.
You really think that that's done by coincidence?
No.
They need to make TV. They need to be able to say, well, ESPN needs to cut it up into 5 million social clips and put it out on 50 different ESPN verified accounts so that it gets millions upon millions of views.
Okay,
come on,
Stephen Smith.
Come on. We know how this game works by now. You and I are not dumb when it comes to this. Like, anyone who thinks, oh, well, they're doing it because they want to get the authenticity of the rankings. Come on, man. Are we that stupid?
I just think that it doesn't work because, in a way, you would probably give a fan base who's like on the bubble false hope.
That's the point I'm trying to get at. They do it for entertainment. That's clickbait. You and I talk about, like, oh, is this sports or is it entertainment? That's always the conversation you and I have when we see people who venture into this space, into broadcasting. Are you doing it because you actually know something, or are you doing it because you want to spew hot garbage like Stephen A. does all the time?
All right, Nick, we'll ditch college athletics for right now after, man, that was a long, long college segment along with
but you know what, though? It was all warranted topics.
Yeah, and I mean, they're all hot stories of the day. Nick, over in our space of media, of course, the big story that broke in media was Netflix shocking the media world by announcing a $82.7 billion deal to acquire WBD Studio and their HBO assets, solidifying its content dominance, though. However, though, Nick, Paramount and Skydance have launched a counter bid, but an immediate $108.4 billion hostile all-cash counter bid to acquire all of WBD, directly appealing to their shareholders. The Paramount offer is financially superior and also boasts a combined sports rights portfolio, including football, the Olympic Games, UFC, the Big Ten Conference, and Big 12 Conference, setting up what could be a monumental high-stakes corporate battle between Netflix and Paramount Skydance. So, Nick, with both Netflix and Paramount now engaged in a hostile multi-billion-dollar bidding war for WBD, and is this massive corporate struggle for content control a fight for the future of streaming and linear media, or is it an inevitable market consolidation that will ultimately lead to higher consumer costs for us to pay?
The second option, and
Yes.
It's not close. The future of streaming is a little bit in a tough spot, I would say, right now.
I would say it is.
Because we're already struggling with stuff ending up behind paywalls.
Look at the NBA.
Well, that wasn't the first sport I was thinking of, or the first thought.
The NFL on Amazon Prime Video.
Right. NFL on Amazon Prime. Also,
the NHL being on ESPN Plus.
Correct. And also having an NFL exclusive playoff game on Peacock or
Christmas Day games for the NFL being on Netflix.
Baseball next year.
God forbid that basketball gets to play games on Christmas Day for once.
Well, no, they do. Now the NFL's trying to infiltrate it.
That's what I meant. Without the NFL trying to infiltrate that.
But they're going to do that to every holiday now because we're the big bad NFL. If we compete against anybody, we're going to win. Unfortunately, the ratings will prove that they're going to win every time. I mean, heck, I was shocked when the Chiefs-Cowboys game, when we originally talked about it, and they said, oh, they're going to get 50 million, and I laughed. And I said, no. And then, of course, I go look at the ratings, and it was like 53 million. I was like, what the what? On Thanksgiving Day? I guess because people have nothing else better to watch. But I don't think I even watched that game, to be quite honest.
I think I may have watched bits and pieces. I was watching a lot of Feast Week basketball and some other things, too.
But there's too many things behind paywalls. Like I said, the NFL, in my wildest dreams, I never thought that the NFL would do an exclusive playoff game on Peacock. Never
been doing that for like what? If like the last 5 years?
No, it hasn't been that long. It's probably been like 2 or 3 years. But like, who would have thought that an exclusive playoff game would be behind a Peacock paywall? Are you kidding me?
And what about the longstanding talk of Goodell saying that there will never be a Super Bowl behind a paywall, and as long as he's commissioner? I don't buy that for a second.
No, I do believe that because, one, you will screw over your ratings in a heartbeat if you put that behind a paywall. It will never happen. Super Bowl is the biggest rated event in the history of TV. Forget sports. Super Bowl is probably the most watched event. And I know, like, you and I could debate the World Cup being up there also. But I would say those two events are the most watched events, period. And if you put either of those behind a paywall, you're screwed. You're going to lose your advertisers.
Yeah.
Because how many people now are people going to be desperate enough to watch the Super Bowl where they're going to pay the price for it? Yeah.
They also say that maybe the Olympics may have hosed themselves by putting events on Peacock as well during the course of the Summer Games in Paris, and same coming up here in Milan.
Well, that's different because they put a lot of side content on Peacock. Where is Gold Zone? Gold Zone is on Peacock, right? So now I happen to have Peacock, so it doesn't bother me. But and the same thing, like I have Netflix, I have Amazon. Unfortunately, you have to have all these things to watch. Remember when it used to be simple, when you could watch on ABC, NBC, CBS, ESPN, Fox, like, and I just had to flip my channel to whatever network I was going to watch that night. Now I need Amazon. Now I need Peacock. Now I need Netflix. Now I need Prime. I need Prime. It's too many platforms. Too many. And I can't keep track of what's on what. And then you're the NBA where you switch up your days and then you get confused. Like we had Prime Video games the other day when it's usually an NBC day and you confused the shit out of us.
Well, it's because it's the Callum McClurg Memorial NBA Cup tournament that was played on Tuesday on Prime Video, and Prime has the rights to the tournament.
But it's just confusing because you can't remember what day is which. But to get back to this whole thing. So Netflix had agreed to a deal with Warner Brothers Discovery for the $82.7 billion deal, which is outrageous to begin with.
Oh, goodness, yes.
And I don't think Netflix had all that money up front. I think they had to go take a loan, believe it or not, to...
And here Paramount's paying cash, and now it's like a hostile takeover.
Well, it's a hostile bid. No one's done anything yet, but... So let's see. Paramount will go straight to WBD shareholders with an all-cash $30 per share offer. That's the same bid WBD rejected last week and equates to an enterprise value of $108.4 billion.
Damn.
Now remember, David Ellison, who owns Skydance, which bought Paramount, is filthy fucking rich. Like $108 billion is like not even
some change.
which is scary to say that 108 billion is chump change. But the offer is backstopped with equity financing from the Ellison family, which owns Skydance, and the private equity firm. There's that name again, Redbird Capital.
Oh my God, make it stop.
As well as oh wait, I didn't see this part. As well as 54 billion in debt commitments from Bank of America, Citi, and Apollo Global Management. So they are taking some money from banks. A portion of the equity financing comes from oh God, here it is. A portion of the equity financing comes from outside Middle Eastern financing partners, including Saudi Arabia's Public Interest Fund.
I should have known.
So that's where all that money's coming from. It's also coming from Abu Dhabi's Limad Holding Company, PJSC, and Qatar Investment Authority.
Pretends to be shocked.
Another portion derives from Jared Kushner's affinity partners. Kushner is who? Donald Trump's son-in-law. So this is not just Paramount or Skydance.
No.
This has like major international money involved. So that's why they were able to make the $108.4 billion offer. Because there's international money swimming around.
Oy, oy, oy.
It also says those partners have agreed to, quote, forego any governance rights, including board seats as part of their non-voting equity investment, according to a Paramount filing. The modifications allow the deal to be outside of the jurisdiction of the Committee of Foreign Investment in the U.S. So because they're not taking voting seats, that allows them to have the foreign investment. Amazing, right? Terrible. Of the loophole. Like, this is insane. This is unbelievable that... Now, I want to know the contract law that's going to be involved in this, because...
There may have to be a lot of loopholes put in place here with this thing.
No, but if Netflix already agreed to a deal, and let's say WBD says, oh, look at all the extra money. Money? Like there's Mr. Krabs syndrome going on now.
You mean if we sit open later, you'd give us your money?
Right. So like, oh, I accepted this deal, but this deal has more money. I'm going to run to this one. Can Netflix go and say, I'm suing your ass because I agreed to a deal, and we already agreed to a deal, and now you're running to take the other money?
Yeah.
Now, I doubt there's any paperwork signed yet on the Netflix side of things. I doubt it. But does it look bad if you had a handshake agreement with Netflix? I think so. So I don't know what to believe or what to think at this point. But Ellison said Monday he places a value of $1 per share on the linear cable assets, which are set to trade as a separate public entity called Discovery Global in mid-2026. WBD executives have privately valued the assets closer to $3 per share. So they're spinning off the channel assets from the actual rights and stuff. This is very confusing.
It is, Nick. I agree.
We'll talk more about this another time.
Nick, back over to the National Women's Soccer League. We've been kind of following this story pretty closely, and we have a punchback now by the NWSL's Players Association, who is now fighting back after the league officially vetoed a contract extension for star player Trinity Rodman with the Washington Spirit. The rejected extension was reportedly worth 4 years and over $1 million annually, which the league determined had violated the league's current salary cap structure, with the union arguing that the NWSL is now unnecessarily restricting player market value and also impeding growth, forcing a major confrontation over financial limitations of the league's collective bargaining agreement, while also, as the NWSL has seen a massive influx of players exodus of players leaving for overseas markets. Now, Nick, we have a follow-up, by the way, that broke last night from one of the best soccer writers out there, Jeff Kassoff of ESPN.com. He reports late last night that the Board of Governors, which consists of team owners and Commissioner Jessica Berman, are now reaching advanced discussions about implementing a new roster mechanism that could allow each team to pay star players bigger salaries beyond the current salary cap, per sources confirming to ESPN. If it is passed, the change would mark a huge shift in the league's long-term strategy, with the short-term goal of keeping a player like Rodman inside the NWSL, as I already mentioned about the exodus of players who've left to go play over in Europe for more money. The framework of the new mechanism is that each team would have a set amount of money beyond the current salary cap to spend on star players who meet certain criteria, and that those funds could be used on multiple players on the roster. So, Nick, with that in mind, when a league, though, like this voids or vetoes a $1 million plus contract extension to its biggest star, does the decision, though, prove the league is committed to financial parity, or does it confirm the union's argument that the league structure is holding back player earning potential, along with the fact, as I said, Nick, more and more big names have gone and played overseas and left this league in the dust?
This is the WNBA all over again. They offered her a deal. The owner offered her a deal. This is not other money. This is not a situation where we're fighting over revenue. Hello, WNBA. But the team owner was willing to offer a 4-year, $4 million deal. I think it was $1 million a year.
Yeah.
And the commissioner steps in and says, no. And I'm like, my first response would be, you can't do that. You can't do that. That's not your role as a commissioner of the sport. Your role as a commissioner of the sport is to grow the sport, grow the revenue of the sport, and focus on keeping the sport going at a global pace so everyone can find it. Why are you rejecting a contract if a team owner is willing to spend money?
Nick, this might be the first time, though, that we have had to now do parallel lines when it comes to, or maybe a Venn diagram. WNBA in one circle, the NWSL's in the other one. Now, for the most part, Nick, and I say this as a former writer who covered the Wave here in San Diego when they came into the league in 2022 for like about a year or two before I obviously walked away because I was writing as a freelance writer. I got to interview the commissioner, and I don't know if it was Jess Berman, though, when the Wave opened up Snapdragon Stadium against Angel City. But I was in the press box interviewing her, and about, how does it feel, though, seeing this league get to where it's at now here in a brand new market, 35,000 fans are here, sold out crowd. And, they're going wild when, San Diego's goalkeeper, Kaylin Sheridan, blocks a PK from eventual teammate Savannah McCaskill, and the Wave win 1-0, or about, them playing Chicago in round one of the playoffs, and Alex Morgan scores the goal that wins the game in extra time, and how the team just blew up, blew up when, with the crowd going bananas. That the NWSL, Nick, has never, I think, had a problem like this. Their only problems, Nick, have been off the field with like players voicing concerns about transgender athletes in the, in the league or stuff like that, though, which doesn't affect the on-field product, though. This is nowhere, Nick, like the WNBA having players publicly beating up the commissioner's office like it's a piñata at someone's birthday party, on a Saturday morning or afternoon. But now, though, Nick, here's the first real chance that we've had to talk about the NWSL from a WNBA perspective about finances, holding players back. Which went to my point, though, Nick, my club in San Diego lost Naomi Girma, who was their first overall pick in the draft from Stanford. Naomi went over and is now playing for Chelsea women's team, getting $6, $7, $8 million a year.
There's more money there,
which is not the case over here. But now, though, there's now this wrinkle, Nick, that the NWSL wants to kind of, in a way, copy Major League Soccer, where you could sign one or two players and the contract doesn't reflect the salary cap.
No, again, this is that stupid thing that the WNBA was doing in the CBA negotiations, where
you could pay one or two players $1 million+ salary.
So now you're going to make those. How many teams are in the W again?
Right now, we're going to have 15 next season.
Okay, so you're going to make 30 players stand out like sore thumbs because they can make salaries over everybody else. Tell me in what logic that makes sense.
It doesn't. There is no logic.
And on top of that, now the W didn't say anything about them not counting against the salary cap. That's interesting, but
the NWSL has said that this would not count against the salary cap, much like Major League Soccer has with their own rule.
But that doesn't make sense either, because So you're going to say that somehow, oh, well, we're paying them, but we're just going to sweep that under the rug and say it doesn't exist. How does that make sense in any way, shape, or form?
Well, we can blame one player turned owner later in the show about how that, in a way, has added a rule for Major League Soccer. That's almost like what the NWSL wants to do with this rule in some way, shape, form, or size.
Right. But I think the point we're getting away from, and I think we need to stay on, is the commissioner should not be saying who deserves what contract and what.
Yeah. And that, Nick, went to my point, though, that here we kind of praised Jess Berman 3 weeks ago when the league final was in San Jose between Gotham, who brought another title back to New York, you're welcome, and the Spirit, where Jess was talking about to, eventually when they blow up the morning show on CBS, but she was talking to Tony DeCopel and Gail King and Nate Burleson, and they were pressing, and this is kind of in a way like another parallel lines here, Nick. We have one commissioner in the WNBA who would beat around the bush, deflect, and not really get into the weeds, though. Jess Berman, Nick, would get into the weeds, though, when she was pressed about league-wide issues. Now, though, here, Nick, she does her best Engelbert impersonation and vetoes this, potential signing or re-signing of arguably right now, Nick, the biggest name right now that is left in the NWSL, not named Lo Bonta or anybody in Kansas City, anybody in San Diego, anybody in New York minus Rose Lavelle, that now all of a sudden, Nick, that this league has their own problem. They can't maintain star players like a Rodman or a Naomi Gurman. They can't keep them now within the NWSL confines because they're being baited by overseas teams now.
And that's the problem, that international money is now going to, and this is a bad choice of words, but
it is going to offend, though. I agree, because it's going to be like, do I stay home and play domestically, or do I have to go overseas and play to make more money?
Well, the point I was going to make is, and this is, again, like I said, a bad choice of words, but international money trumps other money here in the U.S. But
I get what you're saying.
Unfortunately, the sports here in the U.S. are not as competitive salary-wise as some of the other sports are internationally, where it makes sense for soccer players to go overseas because they're going to make 5 to 10 times more their salary when they play overseas.
Now, I hate to say it, though, too, but they'll get more visibility over there than they will over here because soccer's still such a foreign sport out here, which is ridiculous.
Except for the MLS, but I digress on that point. But my point is that the only sports that it doesn't do that as much for is maybe Major League Baseball, because they get paid the money once you make it to a certain level, or the NBA when you make it to a certain level, or definitely the NFL. NFL, you get your nationally international to begin with. But with the NWSL, it's not the commissioner's job to say you don't deserve to be paid. And of course, she's going to say, but that's not why I did it. Blah, 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 blah. No, that is why you did it. Because in your mind, you're saying, oh, well, if we allow Trinity Rodman to be paid $1 million a year, now you're going to get the NWSLPA who's going to step in and say, well, if Trinity's making $1 million, then all of us should be making $1 million. Good. They all should be making $1 million. It shouldn't matter.
2 new teams join the NWSL in 2026. 2 of them, Boston and Denver, join next season.
I don't understand why we're having this issue in women's sports. You don't see this issue anywhere in male sports at all, where you come in, they can make whatever salaries they want. In the women's sports, we have all these salary cap restrictions. Certain players can only make, like in the W, what's the highest salary they can technically make right now? It's like, what, 400,000 or something?
Yeah.
Maybe? Well, what do you think of this whole thing that women's sports have all these restrictions and salary minimums or maximums, like compared to men?
It's not much of a surprise, sadly, and that, Nick, kind of is a cool tease, I'd say, for a small market edition episode later on down the road where I evaluate women's hockey, having so many problems getting a league, sustaining it, and now here we are with the PWHL. I'll have firsthand accounts from Chelsea Goldberg, Blake Bolden, hopefully Haley Skamura, maybe Hillary Knight, 4 players that I know pretty well that have played the game, still play the game at a high level, one of them who lives here locally in town, about how it was a struggle for the CWHL, the NWHL, the PHF, the PWHPA to get a league, sustain it, and now here we are, Nick, with the PWHL, now with 8 teams, adding teams in Vancouver and in Seattle this season. Every game for Vancouver and Seattle is virtually sold out. And it's, team, and all the players are household names that everybody around the country knows when they come and visit them, whatever. And we're just talking, they're going to go to 10 or 12 teams, and hopefully they'll put a team in SoCal very soon because Mark Walter, Dodgers, Lakers, Sparks, you name it, has his damn name on that trophy that they give out at the end of the season.
Right. But in the end, the commissioner should not be rejecting contracts. That's not their job. If she wants to reject contracts for media rights, that's one thing, because it's representing the league.
Yeah, but don't stick your nose, though, in player and team negotiations. That's not right.
I'm telling you right now, you're about to cause a massive blow up between the Players Association and the league. And don't be surprised if we're talking about an NWSL possible lockout if this goes as far as it does.
Before we move on, for those that are wondering, Boston Legacy FC, Denver Summit FC join next season. Atlanta 2028, for those who are wondering.
Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about a little bit of the W, not really in a dramatic way, but Sophie Cunningham tried to lure Caitlin Clark to Project B. And you're probably saying, wait, what?
What?
WNBA player Sophie Cunningham revealed on her podcast, that she personally attempted to recruit her Fever teammate Caitlin Clark to join the new high-paying, player-owned league Project B. Clark reportedly gave a firm no, prioritizing a full off-season rest and avoiding the added strain of an extra league. Project B aims to pay high salaries and offer players equity, putting WNBA players in the unique position of choosing between off-season rest and lucrative player-controlled opportunities. Does Caitlin Clark's firm rejection of a lucrative off-season league like Project B in favor of rest signal that the WNBA's full season commitment is now a major impediment to players capitalizing on their high market value? How about no?
Can we just let Caitlin Clark breathe and let her do her own thing instead of pressing her to go and play and play and play? When we should remember, she was out for at least 3/4 of last season, and yet her team still got to the semifinals of the league last year and pushed the Aces to 5 games.
Just wait until she's actually back and she plays.
That's my main thing. Can we just let Caitlin Clark get a chance to breathe and not always have to be in the spotlight when it comes to basketball and it's this versus this, it's Clark and Reese, it's black versus white? Can we let this player enjoy her life away from the game for once? Does she have to play 24/7 to bring more validation to her career or to the sport? Give me a fucking break. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's now there was reports that she was trying to work a deal out with Unrivaled way back, but I just think the money was probably too much at the time for Unrivaled. Now I think Unrivaled has more money than ever. So if they really want to figure out her situation, they will.
Even then, though, Nick, does Caitlin need the money when our next segment is literally about that 99% of her revenue this year came from sponsorships and not from her league contract in the W?
Well, that's a whole different issue. That tells you how much more value her as a whole brings over the WNBA. But I think because of all the attention that the WNBA lockout and the CBA negotiations have brought on, I think it's all these players are trying to figure out who's on what side of the table. I think that's what they're trying to figure out.
That, and it went to my point, though, that I said during the last lockout show that was very much anticlimactic, that it may have been even too on press row after the lockout deadline got extended, Nick, that I said, if you're a player, you need to figure out what the heck you're going to do, though, when the lockout does eventually hit. Is it going to be Project B or is it going to be Unrivaled?
By the way,
but in Caitlin's case, real quick, we got to remember, though, again, that she was out for a high majority of last season and that the ratings bombed when she was not playing last year in some capacity. So, which again goes to my point, we need to let Caitlin Clark get herself back to full strength. Because let's think, though, about the last couple years, Nick. It's been finals run in college, losing to Angel in the final, getting back and losing to South Carolina, getting drafted #1 overall, having the spat with Greg Doyle from the Indianapolis Star-Tribune the first day that she was on the job, and then all of the crap that she had to endure in the first 2 years, again, of the hard fouling, the fights, the fines, you name it, and this and that. And
Sophie coming to her defense.
Sophie coming to her defense, though, and whatnot. Can we just get off her back for a year and let her get back to full strength, though, if in fact the W has a season, instead of pressuring her into playing nonstop? And what if, to your point, Nick, about Cam Scadaboo going to Monday Night, going to Raw? What if Caitlin plays and injures herself over there and she's gone in the event that there is a WNBA season?
So
I know it's apples to oranges, but still, I think that we are adding. Everybody who's a women's basketball fan, you love her, you hate her, you love us, you hate us. We are putting way too much damn pressure on Caitlin Clark to perform through what her body's telling her to take a break and say no. That's just where I stand.
So I thought of this from a different perspective, partially, that maybe this doesn't have to do with just Caitlin Clark, this whole discussion that we're talking about here. So it was obviously centered around Caitlin Clark because Sophie Cunningham made the comments on her podcast saying she tried to convince Caitlin Clark to go to Project B. I think this is just an expansive conversation on the panic of the WNBA lockout and the CBA negotiation.
Again, that feeds to my point again. If you're a player, you need to kind of, in a way, have plan B and C, plan X, Y, and Z locked in about what's going to happen whenever they decide to lock out the season, instead of, moving the perennial goalpost, further down the rink and down the soccer field. I'm not going to use the other analogy of what the show's actually named for because I don't care about the sport, is that you got to figure out what the hell you're going to do. But I know, and again, I don't mean to blow up about this, but I just, again, from the former athlete perspective, as someone who played the game of baseball year-round from age 5 through age 18 for 13 years, played 3 years overseas in Japan, Italy, and Mexico, and the toll that it takes on the body, as is the case with WNBA players before Clark's arrival, where you would have to go overseas. You get like a week to breathe, and it's go and play the game again at a high level somehow and hope you don't get hurt. We're adding too much pressure. I know that it was just Sophie, saying, hey, here's what I tried to get with Caitlin. Sophie should have known better, though, in a way. And again, this is going to be off base, though, but as a teammate, she was not out there for a high majority of the season. And you want her to rush back to play in Project B just for the sake of playing the sport in some way? I don't buy that.
I don't know if it's rushing back. I think she's trying to figure out, and I think this goes back to the point I was making about brand recognition. And since all these players have no idea what's going on with the W at all currently, which, by the way, that was done on purpose by the W, making the lockout or the CBA deadline by January 9th, knowing that Unrivaled is already going to be 4 days into their season. So it's going to disrupt the Unrivaled season partially. But believe it or not, I can't believe I'm taking Sophie's side partially on this. Partially, not fully. I think they're trying to get Caitlin on a side to prove that if Caitlin is in an Unrivaled or a Project B, that would dismantle the W, knowing that she's part of one of those other leagues or brands in that regard. I don't think this is a forced call out by Sophie, in a sense, to say, all right, well, come over to Project B. I don't think that's what this is. I think this is a more strategically balanced attack. And when I say attack, I don't mean purposely. I mean a strategic balance by Sophie to say, if we get Caitlin Clark over to Project B, or if Nafisa or Stewie get Caitlin over to Unrivaled, then the WNBA is fucked because they don't have Caitlin Clark anymore.
I mean, I could probably agree with that in a retrospect, but what if Caitlin doesn't care for either league and just wants to be loyal to the W?
Well,
that might be absolutely stupid and the worst thing I've said in 26 episodes.
No, I agree with you.
But I think, though, that she doesn't want to pick sides because go to Unrivaled, go there and play, have more fights with Angel Reese on the court because she's playing an Unrivaled, which is what people apparently want to see, or go to Project B, take blood money from Saudi Arabia in some weird capacity. Why not just stay neutral or just say, hey, I don't want to play over the offseason. I want to enjoy my time away from the game, mentally reset, and support the Pacers. What's wrong with that?
Well, I first of all, she can do whatever she wants. There are people out there who are saying
that again goes to my point that I think that too many people, not named teammates, but people in the media who think they know more than we do, or more than what Caitlin knows, they're pressuring her to pick a side to play the game all year round.
I think you and I are looking at it from a standpoint of, well, the W can't survive, so which one is she going to play in? If that's the case, I think that's more of the way we're looking at it. Because I don't see the WNBA lasting if they're going to keep fighting and doing business this way.
Yeah, if they're not going to come to a truce agreement with both of these leagues, then the league themselves is screwed. I agree.
So you and I are looking at it more from where is she going to play basketball rather than is she going to play in two different leagues in that regard. And that's how people should be looking at it, where I'm going to play in this league, or maybe I'm going to play in two leagues and not the W.
Yeah.
In that regard. Not, I'm going to play in the W, and then I have to make this money here, this money here, this money there. That's not the perspective of what we're looking at, or the media should be looking at. The media should be thinking, how do we cover whatever league is going to be in business at that point?
And then if you're the WNBA, obviously you're sweating bullets because whenever she does, now again, to my point, I don't think she will right now.
No.
Pick a side, because I think she's just wants the mental reset, as I've been saying for the past
She's
15
been
minutes.
hurt.
Yeah, and she was hurt for all of last season practically. That's where I think if you're the W, you're hoping and praying that she doesn't pick a side, because when it does happen, and we all agree,
they're going to be screwed.
That's where you can start digging the grave.
There's no, because Caitlin will make any league successful that she touches. I put her in the same category. Well, the former Nike 4 or 5 athletes at the time.
Yes.
So what was that? That was Tiger Woods. That was Roger Federer. Who were the other big brand? Rafael Nadal. All the major Nike athletes. You could put them in any league of their sport, and everyone's gonna hawk to it.
Of course.
Say they with Caitlin. Now I don't know which brand she represents right now. Is it Reebok or is it?
No, she's with Nike. Angel Reese is with Reebok.
Okay, so Caitlin could go anywhere because she has a Nike representation. She's got a big brand. She has all these sponsors. So any league that she participates, whether it's the W, whether it's Unrivaled, whether it's Project B, it's going to blow up one way or the other with fans because everyone wants to see Caitlin Clark. They're not there for the league. They're there to see Caitlin Clark. So, to be really honest, they should call it the Caitlin Clark League because that's why wherever she goes, because that's where it's going to be.
And your media rep will be Christine Brennan. You're welcome.
Oh, God. All right, let's move on because we are chugging away here. I mean, we talked about Caitlin's sponsors already, right? Technically.
Yeah, you can move on.
All right. Don't miss a new episode of ETB Small Market Edition, where we break down the teams making waves outside the coastal elites this Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Also, get ready to hang out. The ETB Lounge is coming to your screens live on January 5th and January 10th on Mondays with the McClag guy sitting next to me here and Nick DiMartino on Saturdays. Your version will be 10 p.m. to noon, 10 p.m. to midnight. Oy, that'd be a long show. 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern time. Can you imagine doing a 10-hour show of this? Anyway.
I mean, 10-hour shifts are one thing, but goodness gracious.
But yes, 10 p.m. to midnight on Mondays, starting January 5th in the new year. Nick DiMartino, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern time on Saturdays. It's a bar-themed style show with monologues and fun opinions and debates. No, it's not First Take. If you're looking for First Take, get away from here because we don't do First Take here. We leave First Take to Stephen A.
Exactly.
So check that out. It'll be on all platforms except for this one, unfortunately.
And as a reminder, Riding the Bench's debut, first and only time on playback at 6:15 Eastern today. So be sure you come and check us out here as well for our final program, sadly, here on playback.
Yeah. So unfortunate, but we pivot and we move on.
Exactly. All right, Nick, over in soccer, David Beckham achieved an unprecedented feat in the MLS as his co-owned franchise of Inter Miami CF won the MLS Cup last Saturday, defeating the Vancouver Whitecaps 3-1 at Chase Stadium in Miami, Florida. Beckham is now the first person to win the MLS Cup as both a player with the LA Galaxy in 2011 and 12, and now as an owner. The victory is the crowning achievement for Beckham's $25 million expansion team right he secured when he first came to LA in 2007. Carson. Nick, David Beckham's unique achievement of winning MLS Cup as both a player and a owner now solidifies his legacy in the league, but does his initial $25 million expansion fee clause in the contract perhaps now represent the greatest financial deal ever in the history of North American pro sports? Let's pump the brakes a little bit on that one.
You and I had a long conversation about this. Why are we so worried about what people are investing in teams? Could someone explain that one to me? He got in at a good time. He had a clause in his deal for a $25 million expansion team, and now it's worth what? Like $300 million?
I think it's more than that because of them getting Lionel Messi.
What team is it again? It's Inter Miami.
Inter Miami.
I want to look that up really fast. Let's see if we can find it. Oh, I'm wrong. Inter Miami's value is around $1.2 billion as of mid-2025. So he spent $25 million, and now it's worth $1.2 billion.
And per Forbes magazine, LAFC is still the number one team, apparently, at $1.28 billion.
But that's crazy, going from $25 million to $1.2 billion in value. I can't. I mean, the only one I can think of is who is it? Jeffrey Loria, the Marlins owner, who spent what, like $300 million or something, and it's now worth like $3 or $4 billion. Like,
by the way, Nick, real quick, per Forbes, top 5 most valuable clubs in Major League Soccer: Los Angeles Football Club. Key owners are Bennett Rosenthal, Brandon Beck, Larry Berg, and Peter Gubber. $1.25 billion. Inter Miami with Beckham and Jorge and Jose Mas. $1.2 billion, as you mentioned. The LA Galaxy, Phil Anschutz, $1 billion. Atlanta United, Arthur Blank, $975 million. New York City FC, round up the top 5 at $875 million, owned by City Football Group, including Sheikh Mansour in Manchester City.
That doesn't surprise me. New York and LA are in there.
The rest of the top 10, by the way, Austin FC in Austin, Texas, $825 million, owned by Anthony Precourt and Eddie Margain. They're number 6. The Seattle Sounders, $800 million. DC United, owned by Jason Levine and Stephen Kaplan, $785. The Columbus Crew, the Haslam family, Johnson family, Edwards family, $735 million. And then Cincinnati is number 10. Carl Leonard III and Meg Whitman, $730 million.
By the way, the Sounders, if I remember correctly, that's Drew Carey's in that ownership, right?
Drew Carey, Russell Wilson, Sierra, Sue Bird, Microsoft.
Yeah, that they've done an incredible job with that team, by the way.
Let me just run through the rest of the list real quick while we're already doing this. Toronto is at number 11. Larry Tannenbaum, who owns the WNBA team, going to Toronto in Rogers Communications. Charlotte, David Tepper, number 12. The Philadelphia Union, Jay Sugarman, Richard Livovich, Kevin Durant, $690 million. They're at 13. St. Louis, number 14. Portland at 15. Kansas City, Minnesota. The Red Bulls. Nashville. Houston is top 20. Dallas, San Jose, John Fisher. The Revolution, Kraft family. The Chicago Fire, who is moving to a new stadium in a couple of years. Real Salt Lake, Orlando, Vancouver, Montreal, Colorado, and San Diego was omitted from the ranking because they were a new team this year.
You do realize a trend in all those ownerships, right?
There's a lot of trends there.
Well, one is most of them are NFL owners.
Most are NFL owners. Most are other sport owners. Obviously, the Cronkies are the owners of the Rapids.
Everywhere. Yes.
But no, I think, Nick, though, in the long haul, and this is another episode for benchmarks, because I live in SoCal. I watched David play with the Galaxy, from the time that he played from
One of the
07 to
greatest
2012.
players of all time.
Oh, everyone knows David Beckham. Now, is it maybe for his wife being a with no personality, maybe. She actually hugged David after they won MLS Cup, though, on Sunday, which was nice to see. She actually smiled for a change about damn time.
Or supposed incidents too.
Well, I mean, but also that the episode for Benchmarks, though, was about how David broke the fourth wall, though, because Nick, you probably know, I know as well, though, obviously being, the big soccer guy along with Trevor. This was a league, Nick, for a long time viewed as a retirement home for players like David Beckham and Carlos Valderrama and Preki back in the 90s.
Well, there was no international players. David Beckham that's what you mean by breaking the fourth wall.
That's what I'm talking about, breaking down the fourth wall, because obviously the Galaxy won, 3 titles in in that span, though.
That
David
was a
won 2 of them.
huge deal, too, because they didn't have the money, technically, to pay him, I think, either.
Which led to the David Beckham rule, though, about DPs, which is how his contract did not count against the Galaxy salary cap. But in a way, though, Nick, that led, though, to players like Zlatan, Carlos Vela, Wayne Rooney, Messi eventually not treating Major League Soccer, or the Americanized version of the game, as a retirement home. Messi wins MLS Cup this year. He wins MVP. Miami was a 6 seed, winning it all this year, and they blew out everybody in the water when that was the case, though. But I think, though, that we could say what it maybe was, though. But again, David Beckham loves the game, though. You really think he's not going to come here? I think people probably thought, though, Nick, well, he's only going to come here and play for a couple years, he'll win a couple of titles, and he won't do something to help out American soccer. Nick, look what this guy did, though. He helped, in a way, do what he kind of said. I'll come here and play, maybe win, but also my long-term goal, though, and he probably wouldn't say it publicly, though, I view it, though, is that he came here to help grow Major League Soccer in a very weird, roundabout, stupid way from my thoughts here, that now, again, his franchise is now number 2 behind one of the 2 teams playing where David used to play in Los Angeles County.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear, though. He's not a perfect individual by any means, but
I don't think anybody's perfect.
No, I just meant, he's had his faults in public eye, but he's definitely figured it out. He's pretty good in business. I'll give him that much. Now, most of it is him investing, to be quite honest. That's more of what he does, but he understands the brand of soccer and how to grow that game. And that's why him taking the chance of coming to play in MLS opened the door up for more international players to come over and kind of help grow the MLS. Because for a long time, it was MLS versus international soccer. And international soccer won.
And who really out there would have thought, though, that MLS would now be having the same number of teams as Major League Baseball in the NBA?
Hell no, they didn't. They didn't realize how big this sport was going to be.
And all that goes back to 2007 when David came to the Galaxy.
There were talks that MLS was not going to survive at some point.
It nearly didn't after the first 5 years, because they would grow and then they would fold teams, and it kept going from 10 to 15 to 16 back to 10.
But now that you have, and the other trend I saw on that list, like Kevin Durant being part of an ownership of a team.
James Harden too with Houston. Manny Machado Manny Machado in San Diego.
So now you have sports crossover fan bases now, because you could say, oh, well, Manny Machado, baseball player. Oh, maybe I get the baseball crossover. Kevin Durant, James Harden. Oh, I get the NBA crossover.
Jackson Merrill, Joe Musgrove were all at the first ever home playoff game for SDFC against Portland. Alex Morgan came out to games. She now has, and now obviously Alex and Jimmy Butler have investment of the women's team here with the Wave. And now, Nick, all of a sudden, it's Padres and soccer. All of a sudden now, when it comes to pecking order with the major pro teams in town.
And the weird thing is, we've talked about this before, where players now in the league of any sport are making investments in other sports so that they're not sitting on their hands after they're done playing, and they actually have investments in other sports. And what's the hot sport that everyone's investing in now? Soccer.
Or as they say around the world, it's football.
But my point is, they're investing in
soccer now is a growing commodity, where, again, if you would have told people back in 96 that this would take off like it, what's the old thing about it? If I knew what I knew now back then,
I would do it. Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
Now, let's put it this way. I like investing. I've done it, whatever. If I had a little bit more of a sum of money, I'd put it in a soccer team right now because I think that's a good investment. Is baseball really a good investment right now? No. NBA is a good investment. I'll say that. NFL is a good investment. Is hockey a good investment? I don't know because I don't know it well enough. You would know it better than me.
I think they got I think roughly 6, maybe 8 teams are worth over $1 billion now.
That's not bad. But I would say soccer, even if you got in on a small amount basis, you're going to make your money back and then some if you invest in soccer. I'd be interested to talk to someone in the soccer media, soccer business media, and see like what that's all about. If we could do that next year,
That would be
and
something,
really,
yeah.
But this is, I think we got to stop fixating on what owners spent 10 to 15 years ago to buy a franchise. Why am I afraid to say Davis, the Aces owner?
Mark Davis.
Like the players were getting pissed off at Mark Davis because he spent what, 10 million, 15 million?
Something like that.
And now the franchise is worth 300 million. Okay, what's your point?
And they've won, 3 titles in 4 years, as Ryan Rucco said on the broadcast of the last game that we watched.
The players are annoyed because now his team is valued at 300 million. Okay, he put the work in to make the team better. So shouldn't he?
By the way, Nick, before we move on here, we did miss one comment from Zan when we were talking about the UFC, when we were talking about the Paramount deal. He said, "This is why I'm excited about UFC on Paramount because it's on one platform."
Well, yes, it's going to be on Paramount, Paramount Plus, but also on CBS because that's where CBS is. But to get back to this, I think people need to stop looking at the numbers. Investment is investment. It will work. There's really no in between. Either you make a lot or you lose. There's no
middle ground.
Could you break even? Yeah, but the odds of that are few and far between.
Nick, the NBA is still touting massive viewership increases for the Emirates NBA Cup and the group stage play that just wrapped up about a couple days ago, averaging about 1.5 million viewers across their partners of ESPN, NBC, Peacock, and Prime Video, and represents the most watched group stage ever, up 12% from last season, while also NBC's regional coast-to-coast Tuesdays, the dreadful 5 p.m., 8 p.m. tip-offs on Tuesdays on the West Coast, saw a 122% year-over-year increase, signaling the success of new TV deals and the event's growing legitimacy with fan bases. Nick, despite some initial fan skepticism, the NBA Cup's reported double-digit viewership increases suggest a growing legitimacy, but is the success primarily a result of the league's scheduling and marketing or a direct reflection of the new multi-platform media right deals with both NBC and Amazon Prime Video?
I don't know if I would consider this success. 1.5, what did you say? 1.5 million viewers across all its partners? That's really not that much.
It's up 12% from last season when it was on ESPN.
No, I get that, but how many platforms is that? We said 1, 2. Well, NBC and Peacock count as one, right? Technically.
So would ESPN with ABC.
All right, so let's count them as one each, just for the sake. So ESPN, ABC, NBC, Peacock, Prime Video.
5.
That's really not that much.
No.
1.5 million views over 5 platforms? What is that, 300,000 views a platform?
That's probably a fair estimation.
Well, 300,000 times 5 is 1.5 million. So yeah. That's really not that much.
No.
Again, what is this? The baseball model where we talk about the World Series? What did they say? Oh, we got 27 million viewers. Okay, but you counted the international audience. The U.S. only cares about the U.S. The international cares about the international. So we're going to fudge numbers to make it look better than it is. 1.5 million is nothing. If you said that, can you imagine if the NFL turned around and said, oh, we got 1.5 million viewers over our 5 or 6 different platforms? You know how many people would laugh? The NBA, this is a laughable number. This doesn't even, like, I get why the NBA Cup is important. I know, because you keep saying it, and I get why they do it. But 1.5 million views is not enough to say it's a representative of the NBA.
Yeah.
Is it?
No, I don't think so.
I think they're just trying to say, oh, look at all the partners we have, and we got all these views. If you moved that decimal point over to the right,
like 15 million, then probably, yeah.
if you had 15 million views over 5 platforms, that would be 3 million viewers per platform. You would have my attention a little bit more.
I mean, the NBA Cup obviously has been a big talking point among basketball fans, and I for one am for it because again, Mr. Soccer over here, and I'm used to seeing this sort of thing play out with
Right,
how.
But the World Cup is a legitimate.
Well, no, I'm not even talking about the World Cup. I'm talking about the EPL, for example, doing in-season tournaments along with the regular season when they play from this time of the year into the spring, where you have side quests basically. MLS has the same thing with CONCACAF and the U.S. Open Cup and all these other tournaments, so that there's sidebar tournaments that also play along with the calendar of the regular season. I looked at it more from the fact, though, about guy 15 on the roster playing for a team in New Orleans, for example, or the story I heard about Jose Alvarado when he was playing with the Knicks when the tournament first began, where he said, if he would have gotten to the final and won it, that money would have paid for my kids to go to college.
Right.
I look at it again from the human being reasons, not LeBron and Giannis and Trae Young and all the big game guys. Yeah, I don't care about them. I care about guy 15 barely on a two-way contract getting called up from the San Diego Clippers of the NBA G League, or from the Capitans de Mexico City playing for some team of a Sioux Falls Skyforce. Those are the guys I care more about with the NBA Cup tournament more than LeBron and Giannis. So don't give me any of that nonsense.
Well, you noticed over the last couple of years of the NBA Cup that a lot of those guys are giving that money to the guys on the lower part of the roster. You noticed that, right?
Quick breaking news, Nick.
What?
We have reports from The Athletic that Jason Collins has undergone brain surgery.
Oh, I saw that. He's got stage 4 cancer, unfortunately, and they're saying that it was terminal.
Yes. So that's a quick update from The Athletic.
We could talk about that at the end of the show. But what was I saying? I lost
about
my
the NBA Cup being a rinky-dink operation.
Oh, that. Well, no, I was saying that the bigger players, like, reportedly are giving the money that they made to the players on the lower part of the roster. Because does LeBron need the money? Does Giannis need the money? Does Trae need the money? Does any of those guys need the money? No, they don't need that money.
No, but like players on like the Orlando Magic, who I think got knocked out, could have used that money. The Spurs, they're a small market team operating as a big market machine, as they have though with Pop and those guys back in the day. But I agree though, Nick, that the numbers are probably skewed when it comes to the NBA Cup, because I think, Nick, and this is not even an NBA Cup issue, Nick. It's the fact, though, it's something that we have talked about, though, on streams on here, which we won't be able to do after tomorrow, sadly. How the NBA, though, has been reeling, not from the gambling scandal, Nick, but the influx of star players who've been hurt for the high majority of the season to start the year.
Yes. The amount of injuries has been insane.
And and the fact, though, too, that the Spurs beat the Lakers as badly as they did on Tuesday without Wemby was a shock last night.
Yeah, I mean, what did Luka put up? What, 35
points, and they still got their doors blown off by the Spurs.
So,
and the Thunder just won't lose any games.
Yeah, they just won't lose any games. That's a whole nother.
They beat the Suns by 49 last night.
Yes.
And then the only real upset was the Knicks beating Orlando.
Yes, and that was pretty single-handedly too. Looks like we got some breaking news from the Sherrone Moore story.
Follow up what we got here.
So Yahoo Sports says Michigan was alerted that Sherrone Moore was dealing with mental health issues, yet athletic director Ward Manuel fired him alone with no HR representative and no security present.
So my question is, why in the world did no one step in to help him out? If he was suffering a mental health crisis, why in the world is no one stepping in to help him out?
Well, I guess it's another story we're going to have to go explore.
Again, are we once again like, the old school mentality? You're fine, put on your big boy pants, and we're not actually going to listen to somebody that they're in distress?
Yeah, I don't know what to I don't know what to say, to be honest. This is a weird shape or form. By the way, there's an update to that New York Post story I read to you also. One of the pictures of the women that was involved has quote tweeted the article and said, "I'm aware of the New York Post headline using my photo to falsely imply that I am an OnlyFans model or that I'm involved in this in any way other than Sherrone Moore following me and hundreds of other women on Instagram. What the story actually reports. I have never met Sherrone Moore. I did nothing wrong, and I'm respectfully requesting that you leave me out of this."
Interesting.
This is getting nuts. Like, this whole story is becoming... What is happening?
It is. Nick, we'll get to our last topics here for the final hour of the show. Again, we are against the clock with MMA Outsiders coming up at 2:30. Then, of course, the first and only edition of Running the Bench here on ETB as we bid farewell to playback today. But, of course, Nick, the other big story in soccer, FIFA has announced, though, that every match of next year's World Cup will feature a mandatory 3-minute hydration break in each half, effectively dividing the matchup into quarters to prioritize the player welfare in adverse hot conditions over the course of next summer. Fox, though, Nick, the U.S. rights holder for the tournament, has remained quiet on whether or not it would use these for in-match commercial breaks. The addition of a uniform stoppage time provides Fox the chance and a lucrative opportunity to put ads in, which could generate millions of new revenue, but fundamentally, though, alter the continuous flow of watching soccer for American households and audiences. Nick, should Fox, though, choose to air commercials during the newly mandated World Cup hydration breaks, will that decision prioritize maximizing ad revenue over preserving the traditional, uninterrupted viewing experience of the world's most popular sport and the biggest sporting event out there, not named the Super Bowl?
Okay, so this is an interesting one because you and I were discussing this situation about FIFA and the World Cup. They need hydration breaks because it's hot. I forgot where they're playing the World Cup again, so I don't remember. But I remember you saying it was a very hot, warm weather country, and you have a couple options here. One is you could throw to the studio for a sponsored 3-minute segment. And I think, Callan, you were mentioning to me there was 2 major sponsors, whether that's Coca-Cola or one of the other ones. What are the other brands that are involved? So you could have a sponsored segment, do that for 3 minutes, or you actually go to break during the 3-minute hydration breaks and you air commercials. And of course, you're like, well, what do you mean? More commercial breaks?
Well, I mean, you're looking at stadiums in, NFL stadiums. So again, this is a joint bid. So you have Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, who all will be having games.
Yeah.
For and by the way, it's now a 48 team tournament. Now it's no longer 30. It's no longer 32. It's 48 teams now that are making the tournament.
Crazy. Wow.
But again, you have 3 or 4 stadiums in Canada. You have a bunch in the U.S. and 3 or 4 in Mexico. And obviously, Mexico is going to be extremely hot, though, at Estadio Azteca, for example, in Mexico City. You've got Guadalajara. You've got Monterrey that are hosting
warmest
games.
Countries in the world.
Yeah. And then you've got Canada in Vancouver. You've got Toronto, and I think you've got Montreal might be hosting. But then again, like I said, though, the U.S. markets, again, are all NFL stadiums in Major League Soccer markets, LA, San Francisco, the Bay Area, Seattle, Texas, Dallas, Houston, all that, stuff. But Nick, you would know better than me that in July, it gets hot in New York.
Very hot.
And the problem is going to be about that you need to take hydration breaks. And this is a big thing that happens in MLS over the course of the summer.
Is this new now? This is new that they're adding hydration breaks like this?
It's now mandatory. It was up to the discretion of the referee initially, but also the NWSL has a rule, and we talked about this, Nick, actually, because they delayed a game in Kansas City by 3 hours because of the weather being over a certain threshold or over a certain degree
It was
marker.
over 91 degrees, or I think
Yes,
they
or like
said.
90, 92, I want to say. And they waited 3 hours until the game was played.
And Commissioner Berman got pissed off, if I remember correctly.
They didn't want to lose the exclusive window they had for the rematch of the final game between Orlando and Kansas City at this particular game at a CPKC stadium.
I think it was on TV.
It was on ESPN.
Give me a break. The players' health are more worried about than this.
But here's the thing, though, Nick, that I think I could see. Fox might do this, but only in the States. I think globally they won't go to break because because I think what they don't want to do is have like the Americana influence on the game of soccer, where, I think back, and this is kind of off base, but it ties in though. Back when MLS launched about 30 years ago, Nick, they did not have ties. They played a shootout to determine who would win the game before they had actually adopted global soccer, where it became win, loss, draw, or win, draw, loss. The thing, though, that I don't think Fox would want to do is embarrass themselves or embarrass the game, because in soccer, you get to watch the whole half, regardless if there's an injury stoppage, if there's a riot in the stands, the game goes on and they don't go to commercial break. And I think what Fox would do, though, is that for the people like myself who are used to the constant flow of there being no commercial breaks during the match, other than, okay, like the lower third or like the upper third with the score bug and like having an ad pop up for Honda or Coca-Cola or whatever is one thing. But if you actually went the route, though, of a full 3-minute long break because they're taking a water break for 3 minutes, that in a way would just like further show that Americans don't care about soccer. And that might be egregious, though. But I think, though, that's just from a global perspective, and my logic, though, of being involved with soccer as I have been, you are used, as I said, though, you're used to watching the game. And that includes when there's an injury stoppage. That includes when there is if there is a water break, as we're talking about here. That Fox would not want to embarrass themselves, if that makes any sense, if they go to commercial break during the course of games held in the States.
Well, that was the idea I had come up with, that they do a sponsored segment for 3 minutes if they really want to hold.
If they want to, just do what they do with the NFL. Here's a quick word from Wingstop. Keep the game and then do what Red Zone's been doing, though it's been getting people pissed off for no reason.
Well, but
is that kind of a commercial break?
Yeah, but that's different. They're only running 15-second ads on.
You can do that for 3 minutes, as long as you don't fully leave the game.
No, but I'm saying don't do commercials. I'm saying do a sponsored 3-minute segment and keep the game on one side, because you can't run 3 minutes of commercials there. Now, but you can't stare at players taking water hydration breaks for 3 minutes either. You just can't do that. It's not the game. First of all, I don't think Fox would do that. They're not gaining anything by staring at it.
They would not be gaining anything if they went to an actual break, like when the NFL has a changeover after a kickoff.
Right. So, one, I think you do a sponsored segment, whatever one of the main sponsors is, or if they can get somebody to sponsor a 3 minutes. Trust me, it's the World Cup. It's one of the biggest things on television. Someone would step up and do that, I bet.
Yeah, I don't see how no one would want to either.
Or you just take a 3-minute commercial break. You might not have a choice, because you're not going to stare at players drinking water for 3 minutes. You're going to get people tuning out if they see that. So, however they got to do it, they can fill it, and hopefully they find a way to fill it, because you're just not going to stare at players for 3 minutes.
Nick, the flagship show on ESPN called ESPN Bet Live, better known as the Daily Wager, has now been placed on an indefinite hiatus as ESPN confirms that the program is being reimagined and will return in a different format as the network right now transitions from Penn Entertainment to back to DraftKings. The show's sudden removal from the air reflects the complexity and difficulty of transitioning partnerships in the rapidly changing, highly regulated sports gambling media space. Ask Playback and ETB about that. Nick, what does the immediate hiatus and planned reimagining of ESPN's primary betting show reveal about the internal challenges and strategic shifts that are required when a massive media entity changes its high-profile sports gambling partner, like we're seeing here with ESPN?
This is not the first time. Remember,
I know, it's not.
Remember, originally ESPN was with DraftKings. before they decided that they were going to go off on their own operation because they thought, oh, well, it's got the big 4 letters on it. It's ESPN. It's betting. No brainer. Well, they made no money. And they tried to use all their big personalities like Stephen A. and Pat McAfee and Mike Greenberg and ESPN Sports, ESPN
SVP.
SVP. If we just put all the big names on it, we'll make a lot of money. And no, that didn't work out. Penn Entertainment pulled out. Essentially, ESPN did also. They're back to DraftKings. That makes more sense. They don't have to do most of the work. They're more of the branding. The show will come back. Daily Wager was a great name for a show.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
And that was Doug Kazarian, if I remember correctly, before he was part of the layoffs at ESPN. I thought they did a really good job with that show. Joe Fortenbaugh is also a gambling expert, was on ESPN Bet. He used to do a national radio show for ESPN Radio. Bring back Daily Wager. I think that was a great name. Let DraftKings be the presenting sponsor, because obviously that's what you're in bed with now. What was the question? What is the immediate hiatus and planned reimagining of the show present internal challenges? It doesn't really present internal challenges. They know where they're going. They have DraftKings back. It's just a matter of how they want to reposition a gambling show.
That's all it is. I mean, we've already talked enough about gambling markets on this platform, and we're already blue in the face about it, so we can just move on.
Yeah.
With that, Nick, in mind, in the NFL, the Colts are reportedly set to sign veteran quarterback and San Diego Chargers legend Phillip Rivers to their practice squad, bringing the 44-year-old out of a 5-year retirement, including his 11 kids. The move comes after an injury to both Daniel Jones and also Riley Leonard, and the practice squad deal will pay Rivers the veteran minimum on a weekly basis. Not a large guarantee deal, though. But however, though, if he is put on the active roster and plays a regular season snap, his Hall of Fame clock will reset 5 more years to 2031 or 2030. So, Nick, does Rivers' decision to end his 5-year retirement to join the Colts practice squad reflect a unwavering commitment to the game, or risk, though, resetting his Hall of Fame clock, making this an unnecessary high-stakes move for a 44-year-old QB who's not played a game in 5 seasons?
I'll take B.
I'll take B and twice on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, there is no reason for him to be back in the NFL. He has over 60,000 career throwing yards. He holds every Chargers all-time record, like you said. There's 0.0% interest in this whatsoever that he should be doing this. Now, he could be on the practice squad. He could do all that stuff. As long as he doesn't take part in an NFL game, his Hall of Fame clock would not reset. Just go and be
and I would hate to see that happen. I mean, to interject, but I would just hate to see that happen for a guy who meant so much to me, my city, the former franchise here. Again, him having every record, passing the likes of Dan Fouts back in the day when he was, blowing it up with Don Coryell back in the day. The likes of Drew Brees being here before he, you would just really hate, I think, Nick, to see a guy who, never won the big one, but was consistently great, though, for a franchise who had a really long, sustained playoff runs, between 04 and 0, between 04 and 09, a couple of ones late, though, in like 2011 and 12 and 13. And then, really, Nick was, I think, always lost in the shuffle because he played in the AFC. And, of course, who was in the AFC at that time? Oh, it's right, Brady and Peyton Manning. He was always overshadowed, it felt like, though, not because of San Diego, Nick, but because, well, hey, you're in the AFC, my guy. You've got freaking Brady and Peyton Manning, then you. Sorry. And for that matter, even Roethlisberger as well at that time.
Well, at least those guys won Super Bowls. Phillip Rivers never won a Super Bowl.
Never got one. Never got to one either.
So, don't get me wrong. 60,000 yards is an unbelievable feat. Like, he was a great quarterback. And remember we were talking about his awkward hitch in his throwing motion, like where his arm would kind of go like
I forget, but I think he actually mentioned that he had to do that because I think his hands weren't big enough to grip the football, and his dad taught him to throw it a little bit like it's a shot put.
Shot put, yeah.
Yeah.
But he's still a great quarterback. He just played in an era of the NFL where there's just too many big names.
As I mentioned, Brady, Manning, Roethlisberger. Mainly just in the AFC. Forget the NFC for a second, but just in his conference alone in the AFC. My goodness gracious.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. Don't play, please.
I hope not. I don't want to have to wait 5 more years to see a San Diego Charger go back into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. I just don't see it as worth it. And I think he should just go be a Hall of Famer. Go enjoy your 11 kids. Holy crap. But just go enjoy the family and go to Canton, accept your award, and
name drop San Diego every other word you say, and the stadium is going to erupt, as I mentioned on episode 1 of Small Market Edition when it came to Antonio Gates.
Yeah,
he does.
Doesn't River have great? Yes, he does. Big family, as they say. Quick piece of news I just came across from Major League Baseball, by the way.
What do we got?
NBC wants to air baseball beyond its 3-year deal.
Okay.
And we'll have an on-site studio show for Sunday Night Baseball.
Damn. NBC, bravo, man. They're going all out here. I love it.
So I can't read the story because unfortunately it was an athletic story done in the New York Times.
And we're also we are still we got a few more topics here, and we got 20 minutes left to go here as well.
Let me quickly get this out of the way, though. Did you miss an episode? Check out our archive of ETB Small Market Edition episodes. Plus, we're building the future of fan engagement, as we talked about earlier. Join us in the ETB Lounge live on January 5th and January 10th. Mondays with Mr. McClegg here on the bottom screen from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Nick DiMartino on Saturdays, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Will be available on most platforms now that we are on StreamYard. So come check out the Playback Lounge. Oh my God, ETB Lounge. See, I'm not used to not saying that anymore. ETB Lounge, and make sure you join us for all the fun. So
a lot of fun coming up, even with the ending of Playback.
Yeah, I mean, we'll be fine, and we're going to talk about this at the end of the show before we go off.
Yeah. With that in mind, Nick, this was made news to me last night. By the way, actually, before we do that, and speaking about NBC, Nick, last night while I was at the restaurant where we had the watch party for the Gulls game in San Jose, ESPN2 actually aired baseball tonight from the winter meetings. I was very surprised.
ESPN2?
Yeah. They had Jeff Passan there, I think, talking about the Alonso signing in Baltimore yesterday.
Wow. Who was hosting?
Couldn't tell you because the view I had was a bit obstructed, but it was baseball tonight for half an hour before they went back to 30 for 30s.
That's great because I noticed Carl Ravage was doing college basketball games, so it couldn't have been him.
It may have been Nagandi. I forget, though.
You know what it probably was? It probably wasn't baseball tonight. It was like a version that they just happened to put on.
It was a version, and they kept going updates about stuff, it looked like.
So they just wanted to use the name baseball tonight.
Anyway, Nick, Fox NFL Sunday host Kurt Menefee announced that he'll be departing his local New York morning show, Good Day New York, at the end of the year to focus entirely on his national football broadcasting duties. Menefee had been pulling double duty as early as last year, but the strain of commuting and the heavy schedule led into prioritizing his long-running national role, highlighting the difficulty of balancing high-profile network jobs with local media commitments. Nick, does Kurt's decision to leave a successful local morning show in New York to focus solely on Fox NFL Sunday prove that even for established veterans like Menefee, the demands of national sports broadcasting may have become too taxing to sustain a dual media role or media career?
I mean, I said this to you. He's going back and forth between New York and LA every week.
Bonkers.
I mean, do we see people do it? Yeah. Now, am I really going to shed a tear because he probably makes millions of dollars doing his work? No, I'm not going to shed a tear whatsoever. But that's a lot to go over the East and the West Coast every single week, having to adjust the times. Now, I don't even think he did Good Day New York on Fridays at all. I doubt it. Because he had to travel to get there for NFL Sunday, Fox NFL Sunday. So is this a massive surprise? No. But having to travel between New York and LA, I think that's the massive reason for why it happened. I think.
Yeah, and I would probably say given his age too, He's not no spring chicken anymore. That takes a toll on you too every week.
And also, he doesn't have to. We forget that too. Like, NFL Sunday probably is enough work. And they're going to
It already is. It already is when you got pregame coverage, you got, in-game updates, you got halftime, halftime shows for every game that Fox has in some capacity, plus the postgame wrap-up. I mean, I think you're good.
And they're going to have games in the postseason and all that stuff. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine. Nick, this one was kind of out of left field, though, but former NBA player and current podcast host Matt Barnes has forcibly denied a widely circulating social media rumor that he was scammed out of at least $61,000 by a AI-generated IG model. Barnes put out a fiery video response calling out blogs for spreading fabricated stories and questioning how people could believe he would be suing an AI model. The controversy highlights the growing difficulty for public figures to combat deepfake scams and also sophisticated AI-driven misinformation in the current digital landscape. Nick, despite his clear denial, the $61,000 AI scam story gained immense traction. What does this digital firestorm, though, reveal about the public's willingness to believe unverified, sensational stories involving athletes and also emerging deep fake technology, as we've seen?
Man. I mean, this is such a great story, in my opinion. Like, if it's true, then that's unreal. I do see some pictures on here. I see him responding about videos. Apparently, he was catfished and finessed for $61,000 by an AI Instagram model.
So in a way now, Manti Te'o's off the hook now, huh?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Remember that story?
Yeah, I do. Fake girlfriend. Yes. This one's bad because of $61,000. Supposedly that was an extortion of $61,000. I mean, you can't make this up, can you?
No,
like,
you
this one takes the cake for definitely stories I didn't think we'd be talking about in 2025. I mean, if you're that stupid, then what is it? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes?
Yep.
I don't know. What can we say about this? Is there much to say about this? That you're dumb?
Not everything on the internet is true. Figure it out.
What was that episode? Cause you're dumb. What was that from again?
The episode where his parents came to the house.
Oh, that's right. He can't do anything because he's dumb. That's Matt Barnes right now.
Matt Barnes, I agree.
All right, let's move on to press clippings.
Got 3 of them today.
So I didn't get to watch this, so I have to watch it. But Stuart Scott, 30 for 30. ESPN's highly anticipated 30 for 30 documentary, Booyah, A Portrait of Stuart Scott, is set to premiere.
Premiered last night, I believe, didn't it?
Yes, premiered last night, celebrating the life and legacy of the groundbreaking SportsCenter anchor whose style changed sports media forever.
Man, when he passed, I mean, I was really broken when he passed.
I remember too.
Because Nick, and I think this was mentioned in the 30 for 30, that Stewart changed the way that we watched highlights by adding inflection, personality, all the catchphrases, everything that he did. And, he really, I think, broke the mold about how you should talk about sports highlights. And I also think, but I also, Nick, remember and think, we had Jim Valvano at the ESPYs. And that really, I think, was where my mind went when Stewart took the Arthur Ashe Award for Courage. And, because obviously Jimmy V said, don't give up, don't ever give up. And then when Stewart said, when you have cancer, you fight like hell and you keep fighting until you can't do it anymore. And, that stays in my mind, about Stewart. But I think I remember it more about how he brought the flair for the dramatic, all the one-liners, and I also remember when the week after he passed, when Rich Eisen was still doing NFL Network.
Rich Eisen, yeah.
He did one whole highlight package with Stuart Scott catchphrases.
Yes.
The whole entire
Well,
package.
they brought him in to do. This was before he had any deal with ESPN again. Like they brought him in to do one thing because they were partners on Sports Center for years.
And then Nick, my mind also goes to John Saunders.
Oh yeah.
John Saunders is the reason why we have sports reporters and why we here have an idea for a show called Empty the Column, much like what John and those guys did on Sunday mornings with Bob Ryan and with Mike Lupica and what was Mitch's last name again? I'm sorry.
Mitch Albom.
Yeah, Mitch Albom. You know, that those two guys were trendsetters, I think. You know, Stewart with the energy on highlights. John Saunders bringing in the sports reporters for their perspective, though, on a few burning headlines. So I'll check out the 30 for 30 probably over the weekend when I have time. But I'm glad, though, Nick, that they're actually giving Stewart his justice finally in a way on ESPN and with this 30 for 30.
Yes. And I remember all of us as sports fans, because we grew up on ESPN. Like, we remember when that day happened and feel bad for his daughters, too. They were very young also. I saw the little perspective promo that they did. Like, they're much older now, but it's like,
of course,
they had to grow up in a sense much faster without having a father in the picture. I think when he called the daughter up for the hug was kind of was cool. One of the daughters was not there, unfortunately, but yeah, like culturally is what changed for Sports Center when he became a part. Because originally people said, "Oh, black culture, we don't get it," unfortunately, and like they were putting him down for all the.
And there was and there's only one way to do highlights. You don't get excited about it. You just say no. And there's a home run hit by Greg Vaughn, and the Padres take the lead 5-4.
I mean, you're talking about the Big Show back in the day when Dan Patrick and Keith Olbermann, like they only did highlights. There was no personality-driven mode when it came to doing Sports Center. Booyah will change forever. What put personality into Sports Center? I mean, look at, and you don't see him as much anymore, but John Buccigross when he does Sports Center, winner, winner, chicken parm dinner.
Yeah,
like to me, that's a little bit of Stuart Scott.
It is. I think Nick, that anybody on a show like Sports Center who has a catchphrase, they need to go back and thank Stuart Scott. I think, Nick, we all need to in some way thank him for that, because I know that you and I have both been there as play-by-play announcers. We had our own little shtick, much like, you know, with like a game-winning three or a dunk or whatever. We need to go back and thank all these people that laid the foundation for people like us to get to where we once wanted to get to and where we're at now.
I mean, think about Stan and Neil.
Yeah.
Neil's was what? He always used to do he used to do the Hawaii stuff, but bartender.
Yes.
Bartender, make it a double. Like that's all Stuart Scott, I feel like. And no disrespect to all these different people who have their own.
But Stuart Scott became the measuring stick and became the guy that said, it's okay, let your hair down, show some personality.
I'm trying to look it up just because I would say Neil probably took it to heart more than anybody.
I think so.
Like building those popular catchphrases. Oh, bartender Jack, whenever a home run was hit.
Yep.
Or this is the end of the line for me. Or like all these different, he probably did it better than anybody, having personality driven. And that's all because of Stuart. Stuart changed the way personality was brought to Sports Center and other events that he got to be part of when being there. All right. Indoor Football League to Yahoo Sports. The Indoor Football League announced a multi-year deal to stream 59 live games exclusively on the new Yahoo Sports Network, which we talked about 4 or 5 months ago now.
Yeah.
On the new Yahoo Sports Network fast service, free ad-supported television, a major move for the IFL into the growing streaming service. Is it really?
They were charging people to watch games last season. Before that, all the games were live on YouTube free of charge.
All right. I mean, we saw that Yahoo Sports Network is really growing. They have Jason Fitz and Caroline Fenton doing a morning show. They have Ariel Helwani stuff part of it. And there's a bunch of other stuff. Too early for me to know. Too early.
Nick, also, WWE has surpassed and announced that it has surpassed 100 billion lifetime views on YouTube, cementing their status as the most viewed sports organization channel globally and highlighting the massive digital reach of sports entertainment that they do possess.
This is not a surprise to me. WWE is probably the most globally watched. I don't want to call it a sport. It's really not a sport.
Sports entertainment.
But like, yeah, sports entertainment. Their social media team is probably better than most I've ever seen. They know how to get the even with scripted content, they figured out ways to make everything dramatic.
And I also think I saw a report, and Christy might be able to back me up, though, if she's still here, that I saw a report that slowly but surely a lot of the Peacock content that is like the old shows from like way back when, it's all migrating over to the YouTube channel. So now you can go back and rewatch all these shows from like 20 years ago. And also, Nick, more importantly, Saturday's going to be a rough day with the last ever match for John Cena before he finally retires.
So yes, that report is actually true. They are moving because they can't be on NBC anymore because they don't own the rights anymore. So they're moving the library from Peacock over to YouTube and also probably on the ESPN library if you want to watch it there. But this is a no-brainer. Them having 100 billion views on YouTube makes all the sense in the world.
Absolutely.
All right. So story time now. We have a few minutes.
Which is what we have not done in like a long time on this show. And if we need to go past the 2 o'clock time frame, then let's please do it.
We'll make sure we're out before Outsiders comes in. But yeah, it's been a while. We just never really got around to this segment as much.
We never usually did because we'd be either at our 3-hour threshold or over the 3-hour threshold. And normally the show was on Thursdays, and today's a day where usually my folks are babysitting my nephew and niece when they got out of school. And I would be going between my office, my bedroom, and then out here, the living room, to keep an eye on my furball, who's actually sleeping for a change and not jumping all over the place for a change. But we never really had gotten a chance to get around to it because we really didn't have much to share, like from our careers. We did, though, about when COVID hit, though, like episode 1 after the finals ended here, game 1 that night.
My grandmother passing away.
Yeah, and then that obviously had happened and whatnot. But obviously, Nick, as we said, though, of course, tomorrow brings an end to the line, sadly, for Playback TV. Maybe, Nick, just kind of, spitball a few stories here about our time on the platform.
Well, yeah. I mean, but before we get down that rabbit hole completely, I want to talk about this show, kind of how it started on here and how in terms, that's how you got here, technically, too, a little bit, right?
I would say so.
So let's talk about Press Row and how it kind of turned into a much bigger iteration as it is now.
Yeah, I mean, so, okay, the skinny of the story is this was a shower idea for the show.
Okay.
It was a shower idea I had hitched about 3 years ago, roughly 3 years ago. I was going through some personal stuff with my girlfriend at the time, and I was always told when you go through stuff like this, you find a way to get back into hobbies you once did. And I had taken a breather from podcasting because I was just getting burnt out with it. On top of my work schedule with where I was working over the course of those seasons with my actual paying job. And one day in the shower, I was conjuring up an idea to get back into the podcast space. But I said, I don't want to talk wins and losses, and I don't want to talk about on the, sports on the field. And I said, I already work in the industry. The industry is very much changing. It's different than being actually involved with games. So I hitched the idea and pitched it to a colleague of mine here locally, saying, "Hey, we should do a show called Press Row," because we read front office sports, awful announcing, and all these websites like daily about the business culture of the industry. We both work in media, and he's like, "Yeah, we can do it." then he took a job in Phoenix at a NAIA university, and we had to scrap the plans. I said, okay, I'll keep it going and make it a one-man show for right now. So it was bouncing between a couple different platforms. I finally landed on a platform in 2022 in August, and that ran until April of this year, when we eventually found out about playback via third-party people who used to work here who are no longer affiliated with us. And they had the idea of, like, the guy in charge of this network worked in radio. He's also a sports, also worked in sports, meaning Nick Morgeson. He said, you guys should pair up and make the program better than what it is right now. And I already had known, though, that the show could have been a lot better. But again, I was a one-man operation running around with my head cut off, finding material to fill an hour of time by myself, which, Nick has already said that, one-man shows, one-person shows don't work well in his mind. And I knew that I was struggling with it, though, as time had gone on, because it's just one person with an operation doing it, and trying to fill the time, though, was, difficult. And then, Nick, that kind of just, in a way, goes to where we are now from April until here today.
Yes. So I don't care about saying his name at this point. Whatever. So when Isaiah was here, everyone, because he did stuff on here. So when Isaiah brought you and some others over here, he had showed me on YouTube the show.
Yeah.
And you were doing it on StreamYard, right?
Which is ironic enough about where we're heading back to now after today.
Well, in a much different capacity, but in a more improved way of StreamYard. But I was watching the show and I said, this can be so much better.
Yeah.
Like
that was what I was alluding to, is like, even I knew that this could have been better.
So, Christy said I had watched it before it came here and thought it was good. Okay. And I did too. I saw all the inner makings of a good show, but it was missing
something.
It was missing something. It was missing some balance. You were doing a lot of on video screen or screen share stuff, which was kind of, and I was saying to myself, it was taking away from you, like, doing the show. Like, because the focus, like, if you notice how we're doing the show now, we'll show stuff, but it's not taking away from the two of us doing the show.
Yeah, we still get screen time, exactly.
So I said, I can help with this. And so we did a lot of brainstorm. Originally, we were going to record it as a show. Originally.
We did, yes.
And we said, we're going to do an hour. That's probably going to be enough. Then the playback platform came along, which we had already.
Correct.
And I said, well, why don't we just do it on there? I said, it's like a hybrid between recording and doing it partially live. And it could be on YouTube and it could be on all different platforms and stuff.
Right.
So we started doing that. And then we got guests, which I was hitting the jackpot for the beginning of the show.
I mean, Stan Verrett, Christine Brennan via Nick's phone.
Ugh.
I mean,
those are still be up on YouTube also.
Yes, they are.
YouTube, I think.
If not, we better download it just in case.
We'll have to check before tomorrow at 6. But we had Casey Stern, who has an unbelievable story of his own.
Yes.
But we've really grown this show out. A lot of people are seeing it now. And now we'll have Twitter and Twitch and Kick and YouTube and our own personal platforms to put this on, which will hopefully grow the show more. And as we continue to grow to the 4,000 watch hours, as we continue to do so, hopefully we'll be able to put brand deals and stuff into all our different shows to grow it and be much bigger. So we can get bigger guests, which will be easier to get on StreamYard because we can throw people links, unlike here, which became a huge nightmare at times to get people on. But that's kind of where the show is, and the plan is, and I can say it now because this is our last show.
By the way, Nick, the Verrett episode is on YouTube. I just went back and checked.
Okay, that's good. Which means the Christine Brennan one has to be on YouTube also.
Yes, it is.
And the Casey Stern one would obviously have to be on YouTube, I think, also.
Yeah.
But we have plans, and since we'll do a big show at the end of the year, but it'll be through StreamYard and all that stuff. But I'm going to say it on here because people are not going to see it on this platform anymore. We are going to have social media in 2026 for Press Row. So you'll get to see more short videos of us reacting to media stuff if it doesn't make it to the show. The goal I'd like to work towards in the new year is trying to find a day so that we're not running around like chickens with our head cut off.
Yeah. That has been a bit of a struggle with me working on Wednesdays and stuff like that. But yes, we will.
The plan is to try to find a day and a time so that all the other shows know that they don't have to move around like chickens with their head cut off either.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it is my schedule too. It's not only you. It's both of us. But the plan is, the goal in 2026 is to find a day and a time and stick to it, hopefully. Unless there's like an emergency of some sort. But we will have social medias for Press Row so that we can start growing the back end of this show. So we're not just using network accounts to get the show out anymore. But no, this show is, I love sports media, always have. Nick D likes it too. Maybe we can find some components for him in the future to be part of it.
Yeah, and Nick D's filled in for me a couple times when I've had to, go and do either work or wasn't feeling good, and he's done a couple of episodes too, which has been nice.
I think Zan would be also another one that would like it also, because so sports media has been part of this network before, and now it's an even stronger version. Now we have a show that I've showed to some people in the industry who actually like. So it's not going anywhere just because Playback is leaving, unfortunately. It just, YouTube and all the other platforms become the vehicle. I would say YouTube is probably the main vehicle for it going forward.
We're over 1,000 subs. We're chasing the 4,000 watch hour goal for monetization.
So and it'll be much easier for people to watch because then they don't have to find their way into Playback just to watch. We can just say, go watch on all our platforms for free and check it out. So, but yeah, that's kind of where Press Row kind of started. And we're going to keep going on this journey of this show and looking to do more and more things. Also, because why don't you talk about the other stuff, since I just babbled about Press Row, kind of just the memory's sake of Playback.
Man, I mean, doing the show with you has been great. And it was nice to finally find a co-host because, we've said it before, doing one man, one person shows are difficult to do.
I can't do them. And my dad used to make a joke about me all the time. Oh, you can babble. You should go do a 5-hour show by yourself. I'm like,
oh, Howie, no.
No. I'm like, it's not. That's why when Russo started doing a 5-hour show on Mad Dog, which is now 3 hours, and Mike Francesa used to do 5 hours, I'm like, I'm good. I'm not challenging them.
Nope. We're not going to go for 6 hours.
No. But quickly, because we got to get here soon, just talk about kind of some of the memory stuff of the streams.
No, I mean, I think, all the wackiness, being able to watch the games though in this space was incredible. Baseball, Red Zone, when I've had to come on to fill in for you for like 30 seconds. Basketball, obviously, watching the finals last year, the buzzer beater that Halliburton had in the finals, everyone's losing their mind. And that is what, sports is. I forget the reality's line though, that, sports is community, sports is this, sports is that. And that was what, Playback brought to the table in a way. And it's, it's a bummer that it's going away, hopefully just for right now and whatnot. But, it gave people a chance, Nick, to watch games and experience those moments. And, and I feel awful for all the communities who are going to be going away tomorrow, like us, like chasing wins, the Chelsea FC group that are like 13,000 Chelsea fans in their community. That's what's getting lost here in the shuffle, Nick, is the watch parties are one thing. Our content here is one thing, but it's the community that you build though with people. Like, I didn't know any of you guys when I first came here in April. I knew about you guys from Isaiah when there was rumblings about maybe a chance to come here in March or April, and that, James and I were watching we were watching the final game of March Madness, like, the wrong way, StreamYard on my phone, this and that and whatnot. And it led to obviously us coming here at one point,
we got spoiled watching games on here in a sense.
Yeah, and we did, with all the looniness, of the damn wee woo towels, and we tried the hockey show here, which obviously didn't work because of the fact there was no deal with the NHL put in place, and it made no sense having a show without the backing of a playback with league rights on here. That was one thing. And that was a fun thing to do, though. When it came to talking about a sport that I work in and have been for 10, 15 years of my life. But what's being lost, though, again, is the communities that have been built. Like, again, the Chelsea group, again, 13,000 people rallying around, Chelsea soccer. That's going away. Chasing Wins is going away. We're going away. Giraffe Neck Mark is going away, though he's not losing his YouTube following, but we're all in a way going to be gone.
We had athletes. There were athletes. Gilbert Arenas was on here.
Gilbert Arenas, I think Brandon Jennings was on here at one point. Again, we had
Jared Carabas and his channel.
Again, we had Tony Flipping Reality host Around the Room on here in the middle of the NBA streams that night.
The last thing I will say on that specific point is, imagine if they probably did not have the money, is what that tells me. If they somehow found a way to get reality to host Around the Room once a week, and they could have gotten some big names to come in and do the show and promote it and get a sponsor. Come on, man. You're telling me that they wouldn't have made at least revenue to find a way to grow and build if they had done that?
I know.
But like you said, we had the NBA Finals. We had the WNBA Finals. We had the World Series. We watched the U.S. Open tennis on here, NFL Red Zone. I hope they find a way to get it back.
I really do. I mean, the platform is great. The people are great. Again, Brandon was a great guy to work with when they did. We love the town halls on Thursday when they would talk about stuff when it came to what may have been in the future. But yeah, today is very much sad. It really is.
I mean, based on how things go, he said he would join us in a month on our show.
Yeah,
talk about it, depending on what's going on.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll get to hear from Brandon in about a month on Press Row to come tell us what happened to the platform. But they're trying to sell it to another platform. Could that be Amazon with a Twitch? Could it be this Snapback Sports? Because that guy had reached out on Twitter to find out if he could figure out how to keep it going.
Hey, if that happens, we'd be getting a sports prediction market back online with us, which would be nice.
Well, not a sports prediction market, Underdog.
Yeah.
But
like California.
Yeah, that is legal in California. I reached out to them too. But hopefully we'll see what happens. All our shows that were on here, they're not going anywhere. They're just going to be migrating into our StreamYard to still go out everywhere. Yeah, it's a tough day. We'll try to do something tomorrow, maybe before 6 o'clock Eastern time hits. But it's weird. It's weird.
It very much is a weird day.
Because I enjoyed this platform watching the games. And you know what, though? I'm not surprised fully because they probably were just hemorrhaging money. They probably couldn't afford, and they couldn't get all the rights properly that we needed to get more people.
Yeah.
Like NFL Red Zone is nice, but if they had gotten like Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football or Thursday or other different things. Christy said I owe being part of VTB to this platform. Yes, a lot of
we all do.
And we're going to continue. So her show Between the Ropes, we'll move over to we'll still be on our YouTube channel, but that'll be the original home of it now.
Yeah. We're moving over there.
All our shows are still going to be on there. It's just playback won't be the original driver.
Yeah. That's all it is. No more, no less.
That's it. And I think we'll do better because now we can add the Twitter platforms to everything now, so that there's more interaction that's going to come as part of the shows.
Right.
But yeah, tune into what are we calling it again? Behind. What's the name of our
Riding the Bench?
Riding the Bench. I have too many names in my head right now. Riding the Bench. The first and only time on this platform, but
the original name was Beyond the Bench. Then we thought the idea of no. There's a term though for when players suck or they don't play well that they ride the bench for the full game.
Yes. So yeah, Riding the Bench will have its original episode on here and then it will turn over to our YouTube and all our other platforms being done out of StreamYard. So, wow, we made it to the end of our last episode of Press Row on this platform. Hard to believe, right?
It very much is. It's very. I mean, it kind of is like difficult to think that this is the end for Playback because they've been great to us. Again, getting able to watch all the games with our established, hosts, meeting everyone here with ETB, working in conjunction with people, bringing some West Coast flair to an East Coast based market or platform, I should say, as you guys are. Has been great. And now, again, in 8 months, though, I didn't think I'd be going from, being a off the wall here and there contributor to being lead guy in charge of creative direction to making all these shows and all these weird and wacky and loony and out of control ideas
Well,
to where we're at now.
The last thing I could say also is, well, Callan's now on our ownership cap for
I
the
didn't
network.
see that coming either.
So he's now part of our level of operations. And trust me, there's plenty of other ideas on the way as well. A lot of ideas, almost too many. We have a social media.
If you could only know what does go on in the content dungeon, we did the one episode we did one content dungeon episode on here too.
We might have to bring that over to the StreamYard platform. It'd be easier to do over there too.
It would be, yeah.
So I think we're going to house and bring that idea forward a little more too. Actually, that would be a good Sunday night show with leftovers being gone.
You know what else, Nick, could be a good one, though? And sadly, we won't be able to do it now because of losing the watch parties. But remember, we were going to do like ETB's Big Day again.
Oh, man. We can find
the entire group join a show.
We'll find another way. We still have that 24-hour idea we want to do, too.
That's true. Yeah.
So we should get out of here because it's 15 minutes until Outsiders. But
yes,
I guess it's farewell to Playback, at least for our show. We'll try to come back tomorrow, even if it's right before 6:00, just to see what happens.
Bid farewell one last time.
Because I want to see what happens at 6:00. Like if we're on, and if it like just goes and just like shuts off. Like, yeah. So until then, what a day, what a week, what a year, what a life, as I like to say. And that's it.
That is it. And Nick, in the words of Stuart Scott, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get the heck up out of here.
Exactly. Make sure you follow us on social media, youtube.com/ETB Network, all our other platforms at ETB Network. Yeah. So until we see you next on YouTube and all our other platforms, Press Row will be on YouTube and other vehicles starting next week. So until then, have a good day, and we will make way for MMA Outsiders starting in about 15 minutes. Have a good day, everybody. We will see you at 6:15 for our first version of our Around the Horn type show, Riding the Bench. See you then.